get him, buddy. Go get him, man. You're faster than he is.
Ladies and gentlemen, good evening and welcome to the first round of the STC Race Department Championship here from Sebring International Raceway. Will Vincent, Dan Blake and Rob Sutherland in the booth. We'll be racing for 90 minutes here today around this 3.7 mile, 17 corner epic of a racetrack. And Dan, I'll come to you first. McLaren's at Sebring, always great fun to watch.
Yeah, we saw the Glacier TV race, the anniversary race, that was extremely good. And also, this championship's got a different dimension to it with team racing as well. All the drivers that you see in this race today can only race in 3 of the 6 rounds, so it really does put an emphasis on teamwork, and it's sort of like a mini World Cup season, you could say. So it'd be interesting to see how this all comes together with it like it as it is.
Teams are the order of the day. We'll very quickly run through the way it works. These teams have a number of drivers. The drivers can only run in 3 of the 6 races that make up the STC Championship. Now, that means, of course, that drivers have their stronger tracks, drivers have their weaker tracks. So they all need to work together to make sure that they can get the best out of their team, because after all, driver points mean nothing, because it's all about that team championship. And Rob, very unique experience here, putting that emphasis directly onto the teams. It's a different way of doing it, but it really does foster that really good team spirit.
Yeah, it does, because it's not just down to individual effort, and I think you'll find that we got about 7, 8, 9 different nations who are being represented in this. This really is a global and world feel, and it really is, despite the fact that some of the drivers are not from the country that they're racing in the teams for, it really is about team solidarity, and it's not just about who can be quick on one day, it's about who can put it all together over the 6 races to be crowned the Blue Cup champions.
Don't forget also you can keep in contact with us all race long through Twitter, also through the Race Department live page, where you can also see an onboard stream to one of the world famous Pablo López racing in the Radical Steel Series car. Currently working ourselves through qualifying. It's a closed qualifying, so these drivers have 2 laps when the fastest one of them will count, and it's interesting for this qualifying as well, because they've got to make sure that they get a lap in without going off track and having any incidents, because otherwise that will invalidate their lap. So even if they just touch the grass a little bit and they lose some time, an entire lap will be invalidated. And that makes things very difficult, especially the last sector of the racetrack, Dan. Coming out of turn number 16, you've got to get a good drive out of there, for example, but it's very easy. Just go a little bit wide, try to go into the kind of paved area, get yourself what we call a 1X, an off-track incident, and it's game over.
Yeah, but they're only getting 2 qualifying laps. It really does put the pressure on. And currently, Pablo López, we have the onboard footage from, is currently 2nd place in qualifying for the Radicals at a 1:59.887. And then currently the driver above him is Dave Gelink. He's got a 1:59.4. We've got
Roland Ehnström.
Yeah, just to say that, Roland Ehnström from the DWC has come and put in a 1:59.3. A very, very high caliber field of drivers, and it's going to be a real pleasure to watch this, I believe.
Yeah, that number 46, Roland Ehnström, retired actually from the World Championship Series for this year to focus on other activities, including running in this series. That 46 car did a time of 1:59.318, a full 1.5 tenths per second. And just as I say that, actually, Enzo Bonito was the fastest guy in practice. He now is also the fastest guy in qualifying as well, a time of 1:59.242. Now that's about 4/100ths of a second slower than when in practice. There, of course, he had the opportunity to get a little bit of a draft, perhaps, but he's now a full 10th of a second ahead of Roland Ehnström, and it looks like up front things really are starting to hot up.
It's only their first lap, they've got another flying lap to go, so we can see the order change all over again, but as you can see, it is the cream of the crop coming to the top again. We've got Bonito, Ehnström, Gelink, López, Buhr, Nilsson. All those are iconic names in iRacing, and they are some of the very best you can come across on iRacing, so just to prove what sort of calibre of driver they got here in this championship.
And also, when you're having a look at it, you've got 2 of the ineX racing drivers sat in the top 3 right now. You've got yourself Enzo Bonito driving for Team ineX Racing. He is in that 1st position. He will have Dave Gelink right behind him as it stands right now. These drivers, some of them still got 1 lap left to go, so it's still all changed. And that's going to make things very interesting at the start, because, you know, if you can get yourself lined up, nose to tail, get your start done perfectly, there's going to be a chance that Gelink, especially on the optimal line for the start, can get that jump over at Roland Ehnström. However, we still got ourselves 4 minutes left of qualifying, so there's still anything to play for. Pablo López, he's done his 2 laps. His fastest time was a 1 minute 59.88 second. 887 even, and that puts him provisionally in the 2nd position, in the 4th position, Dan.
Yeah, Pawel López 4th, and also got Rens Brakeman on the track at the moment. We've seen him racing in the V8, so we know he's a very quick peddler, and it'd be interesting to see what time he can put in. He's currently on 8th position at the moment, but we've also got Patrick Tackman, who has done both his laps. His 7th place so far, with 2 minutes. In fact, he's gone down to 8th place because there's been Kevin Asher's gone in 6th place, so Kevin Asher, 1:59.996, puts himself into the 3rd row.
Yeah, so Danielsson Motorsports Virtual racing that with Frederick Tackman now down into the 8th position. So we've got Roland Ehnström from that team as well. DMV Racing currently sat in the 2nd position. It is still Enzo Bonito leading the way. He is just, I think, on his 2nd lap right now. I'm wondering if he's actually going to do this as a time lap. He's not going as fast as he's been previously. Let's just see whether he comes down into the hairpin, whether he gets anything done. Tommy Nilsson didn't improve there in the number 71 car, so his day is going to be done. And he will actually start from, at the very highest, the 7th position on the grid in that number 71 machine.
Got Enzo Bonito on the track as well, trying to improve his lap. He's just coming round to the last section. He's just come down through into Cunningham Corner now. We've also got Pawel Bienkowski on the 2nd lap for the Black Rebels, so it'll be interesting to see what he can do with this last lap time.
Yep, so a couple of minutes left to go of qualifying. If you're on a qualifying lap and the checkered flag comes out, this is important. It means that you will not be able to complete your lap. This is what's different from open qualifying to closed qualifying, Dan. As soon as that 10 minutes is up, it's game over. You could be a couple of seconds before the start finish line, you will not get that lap counted. So timing is critical in these qualifying sessions.
Indeed, Will. So best policy for these guys would be to get an early lap in. I can't see the advantage of going out late because there's no one else really on the track. So to get your bank laps in nice and early, I can't see the logic of going out later in the session though, to be honest, when it's closed qualifying. But we'll see how they do. We've got Pawel Bienkowski now just finishing his lap. Anders Dahl has gone up to 14th place, 2 minutes .353 as Bienkowski now goes around Le Mans turn 16 and Zali Elminscher go around Sunset Bend. And it'll be interesting to see just what this lap will be for Pawel Bienkowski and the Black Rebels.
Enzo Bonito came past the start-finish line. His lap wasn't counted. He went a little bit wide coming out of turn number 16. So that lap didn't count for him, but he still sits on the provisional pole position at that time of 1 minute 59.242, representing Team ineX Racing. In 2nd position is still Roland Ehnström. Dave Gelink is still in 3rd. Pablo López still in 4th. Mads Buhr in 5th. Kevin Asher 6th. Tommy Nilsson in 7th, Frederick Tackman 8th, Rens Brakeman 9th, and Pawel Bienkowski in the 10th position. They have all done their laps, so there's nothing else these drivers can do. Gorgon Ujoks right now, he's currently circulating on the racetrack in the Vortex racing car, coming down into the hairpin. Will he be able to make an impression? No, he doesn't. So he is out as well. Qualifying is over. So now we're going to run through your starting field for the first round of the STC Race Department Championship. And on row number 1, it's going to be Enzo Bonito with that time, 1 minute 59.242. Roland Ehnström in 2nd, 1 minute 59.318. Row 2, Dave Gelink, 1 minute 59.461, with Pablo López alongside him, 1 minute 59.888. In row 3, Mads Buhr and Kevin Asher. Row 4 will be Tommy Nilsson and Frederick Tackman. Row 5 will be Rens Brakeman and Pawel Bienkowski. In row 6 will be Scott Michaels and JB Medisa. In row 7, Lucinis Pulinio and Oliver Brandt. In row 8, Andrew Stahl, Tomo Meglek. Row number 9 will be Andres Katina and Rakosh Foreman. And in row 10 it will be Jean-Christophe Godard and Theo Babiek. And handing over to you, Dan.
21st position we have Jamie Rushworth, the 22nd is Philip Widdowson, 23rd is Carlos Casas, 24th Philip Verbeer, 25th is Simon Carr, and in 26th is Jesper Solberg, 27th is Barry Burke with Mikael Hullen in 28th, 29th is Mark Warmington, 30th is Wim Stockmans, 31st is Marco Buhr, we have 32nd place of Ricardo Morenos, 33rd is Kevin Adam, in 34th position we have Carlos Molina, 35th is David Clark. In In 36th position is George Newhawks. 37th is Marcin Skrzypczak, and these are now drivers without qualifying time. In 38th we have Dennis Grease. 39th is Jose F. Estrada. 40th is Simon Hill. 41st is Ivan Fernandez. 42nd is Martin Winter, and rounding out the 43 car field is Eckart van Glan.
So 43 cars lining up to do racing for 90 minutes here today. So pit stop's going to come into factor as well. We'd have to make sure that these guys get it all done on pit road, but also on the racetrack. Key point of this track, turn number 1, especially on the start of the race. And these guys will be funneling into a tight corner. Turn number 1, it starts off wide, then it really funnels down to only 2 cars wide as they come down into turn number 2 and 3. You'll actually see it over the course of this race as well. You know, if you go too wide, you're really going to make work quickly. Unfortunately, I always have to fall back into line, but they're down right now as they're coming down into turn number 1. This is the critical part of the racetrack really for the start. You've got to get it done here, but then you've also got to slow that car down to work through a very tricky technical section in the next couple of corners.
This probably be the spot on the track where if there's going to be any major incidents, and it's going to the first lap, it's going to be there because we've got turn 1, then you've got the tight turn into 2, 3, 4 and 5. You also got the hairpin at turn 7. That first half a lap, I think it's going to be really crucial. Some people can see that races end extremely early, just through maybe a lack of patience by other drivers, or just a little bit of risk. It is a 90-minute race, so it'd be interesting to see just how they approach it. I think they should approach it in a quite gentle way, but it'd be interesting to see how they do it though.
Yeah, and I'll bring Rob Sutherland into the conversation here very quickly as well, because Rob, we've been in this situation many times before. Yes, it's a long race, it's 90 minutes long, but you want to get those positions early if you can. And I think the first couple of laps you see a lot of jostling for positions. These guys want to get themselves at least a little bit of clean track if they can indeed do so.
Absolutely. They also will not want to be in or around certain other drivers as well, so they'll want to get their little window around the kind of pockets of the track that they want to be in, so they don't get held up by certain guys on different fuel strategies. So there's all that stuff going to come into play as well. We're going to see a lot of door banging in the middle of the park, I reckon.
Yeah, a lot of door banging indeed. And don't forget, this race, first Glacier TV race, brought to you on YouTube. You can keep in contact with us all race long. Use the hashtag Glacier TV. Alternatively, if you go to racedepartment.com/forum/chat, get in contact with us there as well. Of course, unless you're watching this on delay, in which case we can't read out your messages. Meanwhile, 43 cars ready to do battle here on this racetrack, working themselves in the middle sector of the racetrack. This is a critical corner here as well, Dan, because you can get yourself a good run out of here. The double apex left-hander that's coming afterwards, you get yourself a good run as you come down into the S's.
Yeah, definitely will. It's a very good place to gain positions, and a little bit of stake there, a couple of wheels on the grass maybe, the slightest amount of backing off or losing time, and you can really suffer, because especially at the early stages of the race when there'll be 2-3 cars within a close proximity, if not more, it could get really interesting down there. That's certainly not a place on this track you want to make an error. That, along with the turn 16, which is going onto the straight, are probably two of the areas which you don't want to lose much time in at all.
So now they come down into turn number 16. Again, a corner where you really need to set yourself up well. Make sure you don't cut the corner too much. You will get yourself a slow down penalty from race control. Notice also that curve, very wide on the outside. We saw Enzo Bonito actually able to get his entire car on that curve. But, you know, if you go a wheel too far, the car will snap loose and probably spear into that inside retaining wall, which lines this back straight away. You've got the inside lane here as well, which makes it very easy for the drivers who are going to go laps down to just get out of the way, let the cars come past. When I come down into the final corner of the racetrack, turn number 17, the double apex right hand, which really does scare these drivers. You've got to take it. There's so many different lines through here, and it's famous for not actually having a fastest line. So it all depends on what your setup is and how it's going to work. You really make your passes here when you will see these drivers going 2-3 right throughout the course of this race. Pace car making that turn down towards pit road. Enzo Bonito, Roland Ehnström, row number 1. Enzo Bonito now picks up the pace. We're racing here in the STC Championship. Bonito gets a good start. Ehnström already having to defend from Dave Gelink. When Gelink looks down to the inside, it's coming to turn number 1. Pablo López going to make it 3 wide as they come down. Are they all going to make it? Yes, they are. Pablo López loses out. Also does Dave Gelink. Working themselves down into turn number 2 for the first time. Having looked back, is everyone going to get through okay? There's still 3 wide. We've got trouble.
Yeah, we have trouble.
And that is Frederick Tackman and Kevin Asher there, involved in an incident down into turn number 2. Looks as though they're the only 2 casualties, and Tackman right there. Looks like he just came right across the 17 car.
Yeah, it looks like, as we said before, as Rob said, they were scrabbling for position, and it was just a case of too many cars and too little spaces there. And that really is just what we were talking about on the first lap, about people not wanting to get into trouble, and it's just happened, as I said, on the earlier section of the lap.
Meanwhile, Marco Buhr then rubbing doors. They come down into the hairpin for the first time, and he touches one of the right levels car as he comes out. That was the number 8 machine there on Mikkel Hagen as they work themselves out of the hairpin. Meanwhile, out front, Enzo Bonito is still leading your way. Roland Ehnström in the 2nd position, Dave Gelink in the 3rd position, and Pablo López in 4th. Mads Buhr Mads Buhr's moved up a couple of positions. He's now in the 5th position in that number 5 car.
Yeah, and Enzo Bonito, as you said, Will, has got the lead. He's starting to make a little bit of a break now. I think he's probably got about the 2nd lead of race. This is just what he wanted to see. With the rest of them battling behind him, he try and pull away a little bit. And I think you'll find that it's a perfect first lap ready for Enzo Bonito. He stayed out of trouble, and he's starting to pull out a gap there as well to the cars behind him.
So Enzo Bonito's got himself right now about a 6 car length advantage as they work themselves down the back straightaway for the first time. Ehnström still in that 2nd position. Dave Gelink still in 3rd. Pablo López still in 4th. Mads Buhr in the 5th position, and Tommy Nilsson 6th, Pawel Bienkowski in the 7th position, and Rensbroken, Scott Michaels and JB Medisa, they ran out your top 10 as they come down into the final corner for the first time. Sunset Bend, are we going to have any casualties here? Looks as though everyone is kind of trying to get through there okay. Saw a car going a little bit wide, that was Kevin Asher actually. Of course, he had that incident on the first lap, but they're all through Sunset Bend, and we'll see if we've got any casualties. Meanwhile, we have got ourselves Skrzypczak trying to make a move that on Carlos Malunia. He was on the inside line coming out of turn number 17, but then had to fall back in line because he had the wrong line coming down into turn number 1. So, as it stands at the conclusion of lap number 1, the gap between Enzo Bonito and Roland Ehnström is 1.2 seconds on the racetrack. Dave Gelink still in 3rd, a further 4 attempts for a second back. But right now, Rob, those 2nd, 3rd and 4th place drivers, they've got a huge battle on their hand, and Gelink is looking racy in 3rd.
Yeah, well, he qualified very well. Roland, well, in fact, they all qualified very well. But yeah, Gelink is always known to be quite an aggressive little driver as well. So he'll be putting as much pressure on as possible.
Meanwhile, you've got a battle right now between Bienkowski and Scott Michaels. Michaels looking down to the inside as they come down into the corner. Will he try and take the position away? Yes, he will get the job done before they come into the corner. But the last late breakers there is Bienkowski. He was trying still to hold that line. Now Michaels will just clear him there. Able to cut across at the very last moment. He moves himself right now up into, I believe that's 8th position, because actually I take that back, because Bienkowski's lost himself 2 positions there on that lap, and I believe that is done in turn number 1.
Yeah, talking about Scott Michaels, I've actually raced against Scott Michaels in real life. He races in the British University's karting championship. I can tell you now, he does not back down. He's a very feisty racer. Check it there, is moving on Bienkowski. Made sure that he got the position, and it was a very good overtaking move from the Southampton University student.
We'll get confirmations of the lap as they come past start-finish line once again. Things starting to get a little bit more spread out now, and this is what we expected to see, Rob, because after these first couple of laps you kind of get into that dirty air. It's just a case of managing your tyres, managing your car, get it to perhaps the first pit stop, see what you've got for the next couple of laps as well, and then and only then see if you can try and make the move on other drivers. Now is no longer the time to make those early moves.
Talking about managing your tyres, Philip Weber just went off at Le Mans onto the grass, picked up a bit of dust, and that really put him under a little bit of pressure in Sunset. He's currently sat in about 19th position, I think.
So he's
or
dropped
21st.
Back. Yeah, he's dropped back pretty dramatically as they come past the stripe once again. Give you confirmation of the lap times right now. Last time by, you had Enzo Bonito did a 2-minute 1.088. You had Roland Ehnström do a 2-minute 01.054. So very closely matched on that 2nd lap of the race. And this will come down to the dirty air effect as well now. Roland Ehnström is 1.2 seconds back. He's no longer in that dirty air. If he closes that gap, it might be a different story in a couple of laps' time, however.
Be interesting to see, but Bonito and Ehnström be a great battle. But further backwards, well, 1 position back in 3rd place. Dave Gelink had a bit of a slide coming out of turn 3. That's allowed Pablo López to go right on the back of his car, and it means that instead of maybe having to focus more on attack, he might have to defend, because Pablo López is a very good racer, and he'll be trying to get past with all he can. But it'll be interesting to see this from his onboard footage.
Yeah, and of course these teams, some of them will be helping out their teammates perhaps later on in this race as well. Right now, I think all of these guys are just going to want to make sure they can get their job done, do what they need to do, and then they'll help out their teammates a little bit later on. Meanwhile, we had a couple of drivers who missed the start by the looks of it. in this race. Everyone's currently scored on the lead lap. We have 38 cars who took the green flag here, Rob. One of the drivers who missed out is John Maloney, and also his teammate from Talkford Racing is already out as well.
Yeah, just trying to find out what happened to Phil. He was all the way back in the 36th position, and something must have happened to him because he's dropped right out of it. So first casualty of the night, and we all know the TFR boys because we used to do the TFR Super Cup here on Glacier TV.
Indeed, yeah, and it's always sad to see the TFR boys, but I'll tell you what, we've got ourselves a really good battle right now. Pablo López has closed right up to the rear of Dave Gelink, and it looks like Gelink is struggling to find a way past that second place driver Roland Ehnström. He's going to make the move down into the inside of turn of one. Look out, boys, as they come down, they touch a little bit of door rubbing there. Gelink will perhaps get the job done. It's going to be a case of can he brake late coming down into turn number 2. Gelink will try and get the job done over Ehnström. He does just about do it. Ehnström's holding on. This is allowing Pablo López now to try and make the move down the inside. He's not going to be close enough, but if he gets a good run out of here, he could have set himself up. But Pablo López there, a little bit squirting on the tyres coming out of turn number 4. He falls back into line, but now up into second position is the ineX Racing driver of Dave Gelink. So right now, boys, it's ineX Racing 1, ineX Racing 2, and then we've got Roland Ehnström in the 3rd position for Danielsson Motorsport.
And one man who will be absolutely loving that is Enzo Bonito. He pulled out a second on that last lap. It's under 2.2 seconds. Now with all that switching and changing going around between 2, 3 and 4, I think you'll find that Bonito probably extends his lead even more in this lap. He's just starting now to get a big gap.
He's got himself a big gap indeed, and I think that probably cost him about a second and a half right there in those first couple of corners. Ehnström is not giving up, however. He is on the charge, and it'll be interesting to see right now whether or not Ehnström is running any less wing than Gelink in front, because these cars, you can really set himself up to work aerodynamically, and some of the drivers will have taken the option to get that car working well on the straightaways where he can make those passing opportunities and just hold on in the corners. I've got a feeling that is what happened to Ehnström. Ehnström down to the inside, he almost spins it there. This is going to allow Pablo López a chance to go side by side as they come down the back straightaway one more time. López completes a pass. He is up into the 3rd position.
Yeah, got Pablo López, and also this has allowed Buhr and Tommy Nilsson to catch up people as well. The cars in 5th and 6th position, so we now got a 5-car battle between Gelink, Ehnström, López, Buhr and Nilsson. And it's going to be interesting to see what happens, because these are really slowing each other out. I'm going to say Benito's crossed the line now. It was 2.2 seconds, now up to 3.5. That is, as you say, 1.3 seconds. And there could be a move here. Round the outside goes Pablo López, is now up into 3rd position. He's going to try and get a run into Gelink. He's going to try and look down the inside, but I don't think he's quite going to be able to do it.
He doesn't. He's going to try and go late on the brakes. And the thing is there as well, Gelink almost put a bit of a block there on Pablo López. You're allowed to change your line once, and that's what Gelink did. López was about to look down to the inside. Gelink cut across him, so Pablo López had to then go around the outside. That didn't work out for him. And it doesn't look as though he's as good on the brakes this early on in the race. He's getting a good run once again. He will try and look down to the inside as well. And look at that once again. Gelink cutting across. López going to try the outside line. Be careful, boys. They come down out the hairpin. He's not able to get the job done, but right now for Pablo López, Rob, he needs to make sure when he's trying these manoeuvres that he doesn't allow the chance for Ehnström to slot it down the inside.
Yeah, think about the long game on this one, guys. 1-2 is the ineX Racing guys. Gelink's making a massive gap for Enzo Bonito.
Yeah, that rear gunner effect really is working well. My mind's automatically drawn, for example, to the 1997 Japanese Grand Prix with Schumacher and Irvine doing exactly the same thing. But right now, 4 cars separated by less than a second and a half on the racetrack. You've got yourself Dave Gelink in 2nd, Pablo López 3rd, Roland Ehnström in 4th, Mads Buhr in 5th. You've also got Tommy Nilsson about a further half-second back, running in that 6th position right now. This is the best battle we have on the racetrack. We currently have 2 cars scored 1 lap down. They are out of the race. That is Gordon, who dropped his racing for Vortex Racing, and also Philip Widdowson as well. We talked about him already from Talkford Racing out of the race. However, we were talking about this very quickly before we went on air, Rob. We think that Ehnström out of all these cars is running the least wing, and it really does show working out a turn number 16 in the Mont corner, because he's really struggling to put the power down into the back straightaway there.
It's not just much the power down, it's the fact that he's physically rotating the car a little bit more than other drivers, and that kind of shows on the exit from the apex.
Yep, and what that does, it will just hurt him all the way down the straightaways. Is once again López going to look down to the inside this time. Looks like he will get the job done. 2 wide down into turn 1. López up into the 2nd position. Of course, don't forget, it's almost there. He runs Gelink off the track. Gelink will now try the cut under as they come down into turn number 2, and he will retake perhaps that second position. Next corner is the right-hander. That will help out Pablo López. They're still going to be side by side to work themselves now out 3 into 4. López back into the 3rd position. Don't forget, you can watch Pablo López's onboard stream on the 2nd channel. For more information on that, go to the race department live page. But López once again looking to the outside lines. They come down into the hairpin one more time, and he's still got to be careful because he's alongside, and look who's down there on the inside trying to make the move. It's Roland Ehnström, and he was very close that time down.
There's also a good move behind as well. Tommy Nelson's gone right down the inside of Buhr, and he's taken 5th position. And also, this has allowed a second group to catch up. We've got Rens Broekman, and we've got Scott Michaels, but also we've got lots of action here because we've got Tommy Nelson trying to defend from Buhr, and also the battle for 2nd place. It looks like we've got a change there as well, Will.
We've got a change indeed, and Pablo López back up into that 2nd position. These two have been racing so much, but what this has done is allowed Enzo Bonito to get now a 4.2 second gap on the racetrack as they work themselves down into the S's once again. And I have to say, Rob, that López right now is really charging. We've seen the heart from him before in the Pro Tour's $1,000 Cup Championship, and he's really putting on a great show here as well. Now he's in that 2nd position. I think if he can just hold on for a couple more corners, Gelink's already dropped back to about half a second. I think now Pablo López will have the chance to pull away because Ehnström and Gelink are going at it for 3rd position. Well,
okay, let's watch these guys through sunset. Let's watch if they take the same corner, because we're going to see that apex about the same time. Who's going to get the run? A little bit of a slide from Gelink.
A little bit of a slide from Gelink, and that Ehnström got a little bit wide there on the exit of the corner as well. Had to check up a little bit as he worked himself onto the front straight away. Tommy Nelson right now in that 5th position, Dan. It looks like he's just holding on that back. He's not really trying to make a move. I think he's almost hoping that these guys ahead of him wreck their tyres early in the race, and then Nelson might be able to take them one at a time a little bit later on.
Yeah, he made that good move on the last lap going into the hairpin, and now I think he just, as you said, Will, he's going to hold station. He's going to see what's going on in front of him, and I think Ehnström and Gelink have a little battle himself, and Ehnström there got very loose. This could allow Tommy Nelson the chance. It drags up alongside him. He's got so much more straight line speed. He's going to try and go round the outside of Ehnström, and I think Nelson may in fact just about, I don't think he's quite going to have enough to switch it over, but it's going to be tight, and Ehnström just shoots out there, and that's going to allow Buhr the chance to get past Tommy Nelson again. So Buhr takes that 5th position back, but that was due to contact between Ehnström and Nelson. Ehnström got so much speed coming out the corner, and Nelson tried to make the move, and in the end I think it's definitely cost him 1 place. I think Rens Broekman's making the move behind as well.
Yeah, he's trying to make the move indeed, and we're currently working ourselves on the 7th lap of the race. We're still not that far into the race though, Rob, and we've seen the racing hasn't calmed down. We thought after the first 5 minutes these guys would just get themselves into line. They are still battling for position, and what this is doing out front still is allowing Enzo Bonito to pull out a huge gap. Pablo López also needs to put a bit of a gap right now on Dave Gelink and Roland Ehnström. The gap you need to look for is about 1.3 seconds on the racetrack. If you can get past that, the car behind will lose the draft, so they won't be able to get the huge run on the 3 big power zones we have on this racetrack. We're on the front straightaway down into turn number 1, on the back stretch, and also that run down into the hairpin as well. And right now López is trying to charge to get himself clean air over Dave Gelink in 3rd.
It'd be interesting to see if there was any damage suffered by the drivers involved in the contact, Ehnström and Nelson, because it took quite a whack into the side, so we'll see if it's affected the pace or not of the two drivers.
Meanwhile, we've got a battle for position right now, and this is I believe in the 25th position. We'll get back to that in a moment, but these cars are doing lap times right now under 2 minutes for your race leaders. They're doing 2 minute 1.4 there for Enzo Bonito that last time by, Pablo López last time by, a 2 minute flat 0.956, and right now Pablo López is the fastest guy on the racetrack, Rob.
Yeah, well, clean air, isn't it now? So 5-6 seconds. What was he? 201s, low 201s. That's what Bonito's pulling out.
Yeah, so Bonito's pulled out a huge gap, but still López charging.
But let's look at Gelink's pace. See if he's got in him to catch back up now, because he's at the moment he's letting Pablo drive well away from him.
Yeah, and this is the battle for 2nd, 3rd position on the racetrack to run through your top 20. In 1st place, Enzo Bonito right now have a 5.6 second gap over Pablo López in 2nd. Dave Gelink in 3rd, Roland Ehnström in 4th, Buhr in 5th, Tommy Nelson in 6th, Rens Broekman in 7th, David Medisa in 8th, Scott Michaels in 9th, Bienkowski in 10th, Oliver Brandt in 11th, Eugene Espino in 12th, and his Dial 13th, Jean-Christophe Goudard in 14th, Andres Katina in 15th, Tomo Meglek in 16th, Thierry Bibigic in 17th position, Ricard Sobian in 18th, Kevin Ash in 19th, and then Justin Talbot Nielsen running out your top 20. Let's just turn our attention away from this lead pack right now, because you've got yourself Scott Michael and Bienkowski. They are in a pack of cars, which has also got JB Medisa ahead of them, Tommy Nielsen ahead of them, and now Mads Buhr as well. So right now, this pack, this second pack, that were about 3 seconds now, about 4 laps ago in this race, they have caught up. And if they carry on doing so, and Tommy Nielsen and Mads Buhr ahead of them carry on pushing, we're going to have a 10-car battle all the way from about 3rd down to about the 13th position on the racetrack, as Tommy Nielsen getting a good run for the final corner there.
Yeah, we will, but it's interesting because Buhr and Nielsen were right up with Ehnström. They've actually dropped back the last couple of laps. I mean, as you saw at the hairpin, there was the Ehnström-Nielsen incident, which allowed Mads Buhr's going through. But now Tommy Nielsen is going to try and go down the inside of turn 1 of Mads Buhr. I don't think he's quite going to make it though. In fact, he's got a good run. Buhr's gone wide, and that is an invitation for Tommy Nielsen, which does need a second chance at. And also, there's another car behind who can take full advantage of that, but he's not going to. But that's a position game for Tommy Nielsen back up to 5th place. Mads Buhr just went too wide going into turn 1.
So Nielsen moves himself, he goes wide coming out of turn 4. This is going to allow things to close back up once again. Mads Buhr is going to try and run the outside line because Nielsen hold on the inside to come down into the hairpin once again. And Buhr trying to make the move on the outside line. Says in the rear car, right race when we can walk by you. And this is what Mads Buhr trying to do right now, but he loses the position there to the Falcon GP number 37 car of JB Medisa as they hold themselves out the hairpin. And this is one of the things we've seen all race long, Dan. If you get yourself to the outside into the hairpin, it's all great, but if you're in a close pack of cars,
Michael's
it's
down
very
the
easy for cars
inside
to
of
slide down.
Brakeman. That's a fantastic move. Scott Michaels has made a great move on Brakeman, but I think he's going to lose a place again. It's got a bit wide. They're side by side. This is fantastic racing, but as you said, Will, we've seen a couple of places where drivers are losing momentum. Coming into turn number 5 and the exit of that, going into 6th in the hairpin, as you said. We got drivers losing momentum going onto the straight, and it's causing some great overtaking manoeuvres to be forced just because they're losing so much time.
Indeed, yeah, and Scott Michael was able to complete that pass there, moving himself right now up into the 8th position on the racetrack. Mads Buhr really has gone backwards this lap, and it's allowing this pack ahead of them actually to pull out a gap once again. At one point, they close that gap down to just about a second on the racetrack. Now, it looks like it's back up to 3 seconds, and this is that thing, Rob. It's great if you're battling, but at times, like you do in NASCAR, at Daytona, you sometimes just need to line up, tick off the laps, and see if you can close the pack ahead of them. Because by fighting these drivers right now, all they're doing is they're falling further and further behind the race lead.
Yep, a nice little bit of stint driving. It's what endurance racing is all about. We just see a battle going to turn number 1.
Yep, and that was Medisa trying to make the pass there in that Falcon GP car on Tommy Nielsen. These two battling very heavily, and Bisa's not going to look down to the inside to come down into turn number 2, but then Nielsen's just going to have that clean run for the next couple of corners. And that's the thing, it's like you just alluded to it, mirror driving there from Mads Buhr. I think that really was the issue for him, because in the pack like this, you are almost driving out your mirrors at times to make sure that you're not got a car coming into the space that you're trying to go into.
And this is all racecraft. And you learn racecraft. I once had someone say that you don't learn racecraft, and that was probably the most stupid thing I've ever heard them say, but you always learn racecraft. You don't have to pass someone, just stick behind them, show yourself in the mirrors. If you do it 2 out of 3 times, that 3rd time they'll look, and then they go, oh, he's not there, mistake.
Yeah, and you know, it all comes back to the absolute basics of driving. They do sometimes say, you know, that certain things which are instinctive, and there's certain things that are gifted. You've got a car that's off track actually, I just saw it there, and that is very slow car. I believe he just got off the track there. He will be out of the race. Lost it on the exit, I believe, of turn number 8. But Mads Buhr's caught right up to the rear of JB Medisa again, and Tommy Nielsen. But that gap right now between Armstrong and Nielsen, that's grown to 3 seconds, and that was a 2-second gain in 1 lap there now.
Extraordinary, just shows what happens when they're battling. They're all battling amongst themselves, and it's allowing the group in front to pull away, and instead of having a big group of them, it's now starting to neutralise the race a little bit. And Enzo Bonito got 2 tenths on Pablo López on the last lap as well. Gap's up to 6.4 seconds, and then Gelink is a bit further behind Pablo López as well. But yeah, this race, as we said before, it seems to be stringing out a bit now. We've had nearly 20 minutes of racing. We're coming up now to nearly the quarter race distance mark. I think we're starting to get a bit of order in the race after a frantic first 20 minutes.
it's finally starting to settle down. And it was Gorgon Udrox once again there who had the issues. Meanwhile, Tommy Nilsson down to the inside. Here comes JB Medisa. Will he try and make the move down the inside? Tell you what, Tommy Nilsson, a couple of laps ago, he was all the way down to that inside retaining wall when he made the pass on Medisa. Medisa is trying to look down to the inside down turn 2. Not going to be quite close enough there. So he will stay in the 6th position on the racetrack for the time being. And let's go back very quickly as well to discuss that whole idea of racecraft, because let's not forget, if you put them in Grand Am competition, these McLarens are the slower of the two cars. So they have to be used, Rob, to looking in their mirrors, for example, when they've got the Riley Daytona prototypes on their wing, to figure out when they're going to let them pass. That does translate quite heavily into a series like this. Yes, it's single class, but a lot of the same rules apply. You need to have kind of like eyes in the back of your head almost all the time. And I've talked to drivers as well, you know, they're listening to the engine notes. They can hear an engine note on their right hand side. They'll know that there's a car coming down their inside, and they'll instinctively react to that.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, that's it. I mean, obviously, not all of these drivers race Grand Am. A lot of them race single series. A lot of them will race in the Polar GT, which is McLaren's as well. So, but yeah, all of these drivers are very, very experienced in iRacing. They will have raced multi-class at some point. They need to be of a suitable caliber to race here, so they must have. This circuit, if you want to race this circuit, then you're going to at some point fall into the multi-class, the Grand Ams and the GT series that race here. So you're going to know it.
No, and with a big field on this racetrack as well. I mean, for example, the slowest guy currently on the lead lap is David Clark, is currently running in the 33rd position. The Beast is going to go all the way to the outside. It looks as though, actually, that Nilsson might have got a slow down penalty. That's why he went down onto what is essentially the escape road there. That's when the drivers slow down. If they've got an engine failure, for example, they put that part of the track there. Slow cars and also cars who have engine issues or got mechanical issues, just to put that car down there so they don't hurt on the racing line. But Medisa is back now up into the 5th position. He's rounding out your top 5. Your top 5 is still Enzo Bonito with now a 6.3 second gap over Pablo López. That's gone up by about a second in the last 5 minutes. In the 3rd position is Dave Gelink. He's now got a 2.3 second gap to Pablo López ahead of him. Roland Ehnström a further half second back in 4th. And then JB Medisa is rounding out your top 5, and he is 3 seconds behind that battle between Gelink and Ehnström.
JB Medisa really has made some progress. He started the race in 12th place, and he's come back up to 5th position. He hasn't really done any risky moves and no. He just took his time, bodied it well, and then the long run is doing it really well. As we said, he's up from 12th to 5th.
And let's have a look at how this all plays into the team championship as well. 1st place is ineX Racing with Enzo Bonito. 2nd place, Radical Steel Series there with Pablo López. 3rd place, also ineX Racing. 4th place, we've got Roland Ehnström, who's representing Danielsson Motorsports. And then 5th is that Falcon GP car. And I have to say, Rob, these are the guys who we expected to be leading the way early on in this race.
Yep, and it's fantastic to see not only the teams taking part, but only 2 drivers from each team, instead of having like a series where you have 6 or 7 from a certain team or 5 from another team. It's lovely just to see that the iRacing has this many teams. Fantastic.
It is, and GT racing, it's all about the teamwork as well. And this all goes back down to the core basic principles of racing. You know, if you can work with people, you can get faster, because there's only a certain amount of time that you can put into testing. You know, there's only, for example, 24 hours in a day, and for a series like this, when you've got to be consistently quick, this is of course going to be the place where you need to have the work from your teammates. In fact, I was just talking to Timo Weavenham whilst you were talking there, and he was talking about strategy a little bit, and he was saying to me that a lot of these cars are going to be on very different strategies. Some of them thinking about doing the early pit, some of them thinking of doing the late pit, and then of course you've got the ones that's just going to drive to 45 minutes and dive it down pit road as well. The pit window for this racetrack, we expect it to be open from around 35 minutes to just about that 1 hour mark in this race. From what we've seen before in the Grand Am series, we don't expect these drivers to be able to do any more than an hour on 1 tank of fuel. And Dan, that's going to make the strategy very interesting later on, especially when traffic comes into play.
Yeah, especially when, as you said, when traffic comes into play, we want to pit to get out of the traffic and to get yourself some clean air. But also you've got to think about the time lost and through getting extra fuel on board from early on. But also, JB Medisa caught Roland Ehnström by half a second in the last lap. Ehnström did a 2:01.5 and JB Medisa a 2:01.0. So Medisa's on the charge, and he looks like he's going to try and reel in the 4th place car of Roland Ehnström.
And that is going to be him dragging along Tommy Nilsson representing Twister Racing and Scott Michaels and Rensbroken perhaps with him as well. Behind them, we've got ourselves a battle between Anders Dahl in the 03 car and also Pawel and Bienkowski as well. And Rob, Anders has been catching Pawel these last couple of laps. Last time by, he did a 2-minute 2.4. Compare that to the 2-minute 1.7. So actually, Pawel able to pull away that last lap. But before that, Anders Dahl really was catching.
Yeah, so we'll see what he's like when certainly the last corner then that Pawel just didn't take any of the runoff on the exits at all. That's going to help Anders in his quest to catch him up.
And for Anders Dahl, he's got to make sure, he's actually a very accomplished GT driver. Many people on iRacing turn to him immediately when they want to get a little bit of help on the setups of their car or find out the driving line. But the Black Rebels car of Bienkowski there currently running himself in the 11th position, and is Dahl running in the 12th spot of the race. Meanwhile, Jean-Christophe Godard actually, I believe he just got himself a penalty there for cutting the inside of the chicane, because he's just fallen right back there and he's lost himself a ton of positions. He started this up in 15th and he's lost himself 3 positions there on that back straightaway, Dan.
Yeah, so the slowdown penalty here is quite, with it being on that part of this track with it on the straight, it's very, very costly. Race control obviously saw something he didn't like and thought he was pushing the boundaries too far, told him to back off, and as a result he's lost positions. But Enzo Bonito over the last 2 laps has lost over a second, and there's a car in the wall in turn 1 as well. Not far behind, it's
Godard, yeah, so the Vortex driver there of Godard, after making that fail down, he just actually spun that car, and I have no idea how he did it. That's why he was on the kind of yellow line, which separates the track from pit wall, coming down into the corner. He just spun that car, caught the yellow line, and he's not hit the wall, he's not got any damage, but he's now all the way down into the 23rd position on the racetrack.
Very costly error there, just shows that this track does not show their mercy. It was only the slightest of errors, but it's cost him a lot of positions. As you said, he's down to 5 places.
Again, he's got a bit of damage as well. That car really struggling for grip as he comes out of the hairpin, turn number 6 once again, running down all the way now in the 23rd position. So he might have to do some repairs on his pit stop. But turning back to your race leader, the ineX racing driver of Enzo Bonito, that last time by he did a 2-minute 1.354, so he actually lost a tenth of a second there to Pablo López in the battle for the race lead. And having a look at Enzo Bonito's lap time, his fastest lap of the race, that was sat on lap number 3, that 2-minute flat .678. Since then, he's not been able to get back in the 2-minute bracket at all. Pablo López, he's been able to do 2 laps in the 2-minute flat bracket, and last time by the 2-minute 1.2. Let's see what lap times they do as they come past the start finish line once again. We think, Rob, that could be a little bit of gap management, as Bonito does a 2-minute 1.193. Pablo López, he does a 2-minute 1.020, so another tenth and a half taken there by Pablo López, but still that gap is 5.1 seconds.
Yeah, there are 2 engine maps for this McLaren. One saves fuel, one gives more power. You can also change the torque as well. So he could just be doing a bit of gap management, a bit of stint management. Take note that his fastest laps were when he needed to get away from the pack, when Gelink was running rear gunner.
Scott Michael's just overtaken Tommy Nilsson for 6th place. Sorry to interrupt. Going into turn number 3, and Nilsson's trying to bite back at Michaels, but he's managed to keep the position as of now. So that's Scott Michaels now to 6th place in that Radicals car.
So for those of you who are just joining us, welcome to the first round of the FTC Teams Championship here on Glacier TV, presented to you today by Race Department and also by rSeat. rSeat, for more information, go to rSeat.com. Approximately half-hour distance in this race, so 1/3 distance of this race going to be scored complete at the line. Enzo Bonito is your race leader with a 5.1 second gap over Pablo López. And 3rd position is Dave Gelink in the number 24 car. So you've got 2 of the ineX guys running in podium positions right now, 1st and 3rd. Roland Ehnström in the 4th position, representing Danielsson Motorsports, and then in 5th is JB Melissa, driving for Falcon GP. We still have ourselves a total of 33 cars on the lead lap. Last car on the lead lap, that is currently David Clark, and we've got ourselves a couple of guys scored laps down. Simon Hill in the 20 car, driving for Infinity Esports, scored 4 laps down. Big issues for him. Then we've got ourselves Marco Buhr, sat on pit road getting repairs to his race car. Barry Berg is out of the race, got the new Joxes on pit road, but with some very big damage. And Philip Wooderson, the first retiree of the day, scored all the way down in the 38th position on the racetrack.
Well, 3rd place, not hot a bit up again. Well, we've got Ehnström and Gelink less than a second apart, and it looks like Ehnström he seems to have a bit more pace on Gelink at the moment. He fell back earlier in the race, but now he's pulling it back, so that could be something to watch in the next few laps. That battle for third place, the last place on the podium.
And also, Rob, you alluded to this just momentarily as well. Oliver Brown, in that number 91 car, and if we turn our attention back to about a year ago in the Talk Creek Racing Super Cup, we always talked about Oliver Brand and how he comes alive in this middle stage of the race. Right now, he's sat in the 10th position. He qualified 14th, so he's made up 4 positions in the race so far. He's catching this train, which has got Scott Michaels, Tommy Nilsson, Rens Broekman, Mads Buhr in it, and we know how good he is in this stage of the race. From that half-hour point to that sequence of pit stops to about the 1 hour mark, he's got to be a driver you've got to look for to perhaps leapfrog a couple more positions.
There's a very level head on his shoulders. He will just sit there, being consistent, let all the fun around him sort itself out, and then he'll go on a charge. All of the while, he'll probably be saving his tyres, he'll probably be saving a little bit of fuel as well, and then he'll just come into his own. So when you start to see people pit, that's when he'll probably take advantage.
Let's turn our attention back to the teams as well. I mean, one of the teams struggling a little bit today is Blue Flag Racing. Mark Warmington currently sat in the 32nd position, but you talk about, you know, how it's a team effort, and these guys can only run 3 of the 6 rounds. For Blue Flag Racing, they've got some of the biggest names in all of iRacing who sat there on the sidelines ready to get racing. People, for example, like Krista Larson, John Paquin, Marty Sponser, they are all going to be representing Blue Flag Racing at some point this season. And even though they're having a bad day today, in the next 5 rounds, there's a chance that these guys could be at the front of the standings.
Yeah, it just shows that these races, it's not like a normal championship where it's individual, and you could have the same order, like status could have the same order in the majority of the races. You will see teams have better races than others, because there'll be drivers who, as you said, will have their strong points and have their weak points, and that's just drivers and circuits as well. So yeah, definitely it's going to be a championship which, as you said before, they could be low down in this race, but come to the next one, they can find themselves in a similar position to what the team in first and third are this time. So yeah, it definitely puts some variation into the championship, that's for sure.
And when we have a look at ineX Racing, that is currently sat 1st and 3rd in the standings. You've got Dave Gelink on that team, you've got Laurent Brettel, Enzo Bonito, Jason Lover, Douglas Lundberg, Timo Movement and Isaac Price. So you've got a big number of drivers with black stripes. And we talk about black stripes on iRacing. These are drivers who either got an iRacing Pro license or an iRacing World Championship Series license. And you've got people, for example, like Gelink, Bonito, who have got that black stripe, so are eligible to race in either the Pro Series or in the World Championship Series this year. And it does show off the level of competition that race department's been able to bring into this series, and it is top caliber racing here today.
But that's good. Imagine what's going to be like when driver changes come in.
Just don't. I'm already thinking about it now, and that will just truly be amazing. We'll bring you up to date on some of the team situations as well as this race progresses. But right now, let's just very quickly check back in on Oliver Brand. He's representing Team Twister Racing right now, sat in that 10th position. And let's not forget that he's got his teammate, Tommy Nilsson, sat in the 10th position in this race as well. So the question is to you, Dan, could they try and do their strategy together, or will they try and, you know, split their strategy and see whether they can get one of them out in front and, you know, hope that at least one of them works?
I think they might need to do that, because once they get clear of this group of they're being led by Scott Michaels, there is actually a 4-second window between him and JB Masida. I think if they can get to clean air, obviously without the drag and without the dirty air situation, that they'll be able to pull out quicker lap times. And we also see in that little group, Rens Broekman seems to be getting particularly irritable, stuck behind Tommy Nilsson. He had a half-hearted attempt at the hairpin, no, it's nearly gone to the back of him there. That was very close.
He cut right across the rear of this car, actually. Very lucky he didn't turn Tommy Nilsson around. Rens Broekman there driving for Infinity Esports, one of the newer teams to iRacing, but they've really brought themselves to the fray in the last year or so. Broekman currently sat in that 8th position, Tommy Nilsson ahead of him, and then Scott Michaels ahead of him. But Scott Michaels, actually, it looks as though that right now he's doing that game of now he's at the front of this field. He's just managing his pace, managing his tyres, Rob. And I expect him to be one of those drivers that in about 10 minutes time really puts the hammer down and see what they've got left of their tyres and see how hard he can push.
Who's Scott Michaels?
Yes.
Like Southampton Uni's finest, I might add.
But, you know, Michaels representing Radicals, And, you know, the Radical guys, especially in GT racing, always a team you have to look out for. And I know that they'll be coached right now. They've got Andy Kay in on their spot start. He's doing all of the work for them on their strategy. You expect those guys, you know, you've got second place for them, you've got sixth place for them as well. Do you expect Michael to perhaps get into the top 5 for pit stops?
I actually don't know.
That's a classic.
What a terrible answer, but I actually don't know. I never know with Michaels. I've not actually seen him race that much.
Rob? Sorry, Dan?
I think the gap may be a bit... He's going to have a very quick pit stop because, as I said before, there's a 4 second gap between Michaels and JB Maceda. I think Michaels' main priority for the pit stops will be try to pull away from this gaggle of cars, Nilsson, Brakeman, Buhr, those sort of people. I think his main priority will be to try and get away from that pack, and he seems to be making a good little effort of it on his own. In fact, he's probably pulled out about a second, but I think that'd be his main priority. In fact, he's going down to his change of line there from Scott Michaels. That's quite interesting.
Yeah, that's very interesting actually. And these drivers will do that over the course of the race as well. They might have different lines of trail, but also just trying to upset the balance of the car behind them. Don't forget, these cars, especially when they're running this closely together, will have quite a bit of dirty air on them, and they'll try and use those different lines over the course of the race to just try and upset the balance of the car. Because if you go from dirty air right in the centre of the corner to all of a sudden having clean air in front of your nose, it can make that car very, very difficult to handle. However, we're currently working ourselves on the 19th lap of the race. The race leader is still Enzo Bonito, but that gap is now down to 4.6 seconds on the racetrack. And just as I cut away from him, Rens Broekman getting very close now to Tommy Nilsson. And I give it a couple of laps, and I think that Broekman's going to try and make that move.
He already tried to make the move about a lap or so ago at the hairpin, but I think he'll try and make a definitely more sustained effort. And as you said before, Pablo López is slowly grinding away at Enzo Bonito's lead. He's not taking much, maybe a tenth or two, but he's ever slowly catching them up. It was 6 seconds at one point, and there's Pawel, Bienkowski, and the car of Oliver Brandt having a bit of a ding-dong there. Brandt has like a very defensive line going into the hairpin because Bienkowski was very eager to go past him there.
So we're approaching the half race distance now of the rSeat.net 90 minutes of Sebring here. And don't forget, one more time, you can also check out Pablo López's live onboard stream brought to you by rSeat.net and the Radical Steel Series team. López currently sat in that second position on the racetrack. His last time, a 2-minute flat .884. Compare that to Bonito's 2-minute flat .971. Now Bonito has been able to get back in to the 2-minute flat ranges these last couple of laps. However, Pablo López was able to do so a lap earlier. His first lap of the race, a 2-minute flat .745. And when you compare that to that of Enzo Bonito in that 05 ineX racing car, it's still a 10th of a lap slower, but don't forget, Bonito set that lap early on in this race when those tyres were at their prime. López is now doing this at what, 2/3 of the way into a fuel run? There's still a lot of racing left to go in this battle for the race lead, and behind them, Gelink and Ehnström. Ehnström has now really caught back up to the rear of Dave Gelink as they come past the start-finish line. That gap is just half a second on the racetrack, and that really is going to help him, Ehnström, down those 3 big power zones, as I call them, that run from turn number 1, sorry, from the final corner down to turn number 1, then from exit turn 4 through turn 5 into the hairpin, and also at Le Mans corner, turn 16 down into Sunset Bend, turn 17. Ehnström will be getting the draft all the way through those sections of the racetrack. And I talked about how he's feeling less wing on that car. For him, actually, Dan, that dirty air might be helping him to use that dirty air to actually have that car turn a little bit better.
Yeah, well, help him turn a little bit better, but this could become a 3-car Scott very quickly because JB Maceda is catching them at quite a rate. He's seen them 2 in front of him and thought, I want a bit of that battle for the podium. I think give it 3 or 4 laps, I think JB Maceda will be right on the back bumper of Roland Ehnström and Dave Gelink. But as you said, the effect of the air, it can go both ways. It can either be good or it can be bad. I think as you see that going through the corner there, Ehnström just seemed a lot more planted than Gelink. Gelink seemed to be a little bit coming out the corner a bit more bouncier, but Ehnström just seems to be a lot more flatter to the floor, and he just seems to be able a bit of advantage there.
And behind him, we've got ourselves a 3-car tango. We've got Buhr in 9th, we've got Rens Broekman in 8th, we've got Tommy Nilsson in 7th. Ahead of them, actually, Scott Michaels now been able to pull out about a second gap over these 2 drivers. So right now, it looks like Scott Michaels has got that gap he kind of wanted in that Radical Steel Series car. Tommy Nilsson is struggling right now in that 7th position, representing Twister Racing. Then Broekman in 8th for Infinity Esports, and then in 9th you've got Buhr And out of all these drivers, I still have to say Mads Buhr's the one who's just been keeping up the coolest. And Pawel Bienkowski as well, in the Black Rebels car, in the #1 machine. He's also just been kind of staying around there, not doing too much. And I think you put Oliver Brandt into the mix here as well. They're all going to come into play in the next 5 laps or so as we get closer and closer to half-race distance. And it's a big log jam coming through the final corner, turn number 17, Sunset Bend. And it really did allow Rensbrokeman to catch up one more time to the rear of Tommy Nilsson as they come past the start-finish line once again to put their 20th lap in the books. And the question is, Dan, it's always that question that we're going to have to ask, which one of these guys is going to blink first and make that journey down towards pit road?
That is a question I can't actually answer, Will. But I think Nilsson at the moment, I think if he came in first, it's more of a risk really, because he doesn't want to go right to the end of that pack. He wants to, someone like maybe Mads Buhr, who was further up the field earlier in the race, remember, before he got involved in the shenanigans at the hairpin and lost a couple of places. I think someone like Mads Buhr may blink first, because the worst case scenario, you could lose 2, but they could gain 2 as well. Someone in the middle of the pack maybe has a bit less to lose than someone in the front of it.
And they were running bumper to nose to bumper to nose to bumper as they worked themselves through the hairpin that last time by. And having a look at the lap times as well, I mean, Mads Buhr doing a 2-minute 1.6, Rensbrokeman doing a 2-minute 1.7, Tommy Nilsson doing a 2-minute 1.7. Ahead of them, Scott Michael that last time was actually slower by he did a very slow lap time actually, 2-minute 1.9, but before that he was a full 4 tenths of a lap per second faster. So Rensbrokeman, so he's come down onto pit road by the looks of it. He's going to come on to pit road, I believe, soon onto pit road. We're getting word in our ear. However, what we're thinking is that if you come onto pit road now, you can actually gain 4 tenths of a second a lap. Yes, you're carrying more fuel around, but you have that clean air, and that can make a big difference later on in this race, Dan.
Yeah, it could make a big difference, because even that clean air, as we said before, with them so closely together, it could be the case between a couple of 2-3 positions, especially with the way they are now. And we've got Pawel Bienkowski trying to have a little look. In fact, Pawel Bienkowski's gone past Oliver Brandt. And he's made another move there, stick as well, I believe. So he's gone past Mads Buhr. So Bienkowski's on a bit of a roll. Not literally, obviously, but he's gone past 2 cars in quick succession. So Bienkowski's decided now's a chance to put the hammer down.
And I think that might be more Mads Buhr overworked his tyres earlier on the stint, because that car was toast.
Mads gave that corner up. He dived in and he gave the corner up. He saw him in his mirrors and went, no, I'm not going to fight in the sunset.
I still think that he's struggling with his tyres right now. I mean, having a look through turn 1, I'm having a look through now. He's struggling a little bit trying to put that power down. And I think that he did use those tyres quite heavily at the start of this race. And Dan, we did allude to this, as Xavier Medisa is now down on pit road from 5th position. So he is the first of the cars to pit there for Falcon GP. Pit road, a very lonely place right now. So we'll see what happens with him. But we did talk about this at the start of the race, and you've got to manage your tyres. Perhaps for drivers like Mads Buhr, he might have pushed too much too early on. He's actually falling behind now from the rear of Bienkowski, and he's about 4 car lengths back already.
Yeah, Mads Buhr was right in the thick of it, as we saw earlier on. I think maybe he may have took a bit too much from his tyres. It'll be interesting to see what the JB Mercedes, what his finishing position is, because that first stint he really did make some pace up, and he was near enough with Ehnström and Gelink, so it'll be quite interesting to see just what effect this early pit stop's had, or in the long run, will it do him good, will it do him bad? That'll be the question to be answered. But as you said before about Mads Buhr, I think tyres probably may be an issue. I'm not saying it's definitely an issue, but we did see him really fighting hard at the beginning of the race.
David Clark still the last of the 33 guys on the lead lap there in the flatOutClub.com car. In fact, he now just comes down onto pit road. He might have done that instinctively, knowing the fact he's going to get lapped there by Enzo Bonito in the next 2 laps or so. Going to make it easy for himself. Just come down onto pit road now. Very smart move there by the number 13 car of David Clark, who comes down onto pit road, who's going to get full fresh tyres and top up with race fuel as well. We are into that pit stop zone because we're just 15 seconds away from the halfway point of this race.
Brockman pits.
Brockman pits, so this is interesting here for Brockman.
Yeah, I thought he might, as I said before, he probably has not so much risk involved being in the middle of that pack. If he can get a good pit stop and get some clean laps in, he could find himself clear, maybe even Scott Michaels. He could definitely clear Nilsson, so it'll be interesting to see how that one pans out. This could be a crucial moment in Rensbrokeman's race.
And this is lucky because the random tip that Rob Sumlin gave actually came true. Brokeman came onto pit road earlier than all these other guys. So this is going to be interesting now. We think that he might actually have been short on fuel. So he's going to have to top up that car completely with race gas to make sure it gets to the end of the race. Ahead of us, see a car coming out of pit road. That is David Clark, who's coming out of pit road back onto the racetrack. He's now scored as 1 lap down from your race leader, as he's now onto the racetrack once again. Goddard also onto pit road. Jesper Nielsen on pit road at the moment. So pit road starting to become a busier place when Brokeman back out onto the racetrack. Importantly, it looks as though he's got a clean track both ahead and behind him. He actually falls out ahead of his teammate Simon Hill there in the Infinity Esports car. And he's got himself right now a big gap, about 7 seconds to Ricardo Murinos ahead of him. So Rob, that's actually played out perfectly for him when you consider the fact that right now you're going to want clean traffic.
Yep, and I'll answer your question with another question. Who's been the busiest driver for the first 45 minutes?
So many of them. You going to give me an answer?
I'll give you 2, yeah. Tommy Nielsen, Mads Buhr, between them, easily.
Yeah, I think I'll agree with that. And they're 2 of the drivers that are going to come back into play a little bit later on in this race as well. I think that clean air really is going to help some of these cars if they decide to pit early. The worst thing that could happen to you, Dan, you come onto pit road, you come out behind 2-3 cars, it's going to completely mess up your race strategy, and you could overall lose yourself an absolute heap of time. I mean, this pit window, yes, it is now open. It was open for about another 15 minutes. Some of the longer guys will try and go about an hour on their tank of fuel.
Yeah, that's your worst nightmare. You come out, you see yourself in the back of cars all fighting them themselves, and you just think, why did I do that for? That can really cost you time. That is probably, and there's a car coming into the pits as well further down. I think it's Tomo Medic, yeah, Tomo Medic is coming in. But as you said, we said with the brakeman coming into clean air, how crucial it can be, but also going the other way around, and you can see races ruined just by coming out into that traffic and not being able to do much about it with them being a lighter fuel. You might have newer tyres, but even still, they can be quicker and cause you some problems.
And don't forget as well, Rob, new tyres are always worth an advantage. We can turn our attention back to a very slow car. I just went off track actually. That is Theo Bubkek, who was running in the 15th position. He's just allowed himself to be closed down there by the 23 car as they work themselves down into the hairpin once again. But fresh tyres really are worth a huge advantage right now, as we also had a big twitch there from Scott Michaels.
And also it's hotting up at the hairpin. We saw Bienkowski have contact with Tommy Nelson, and now this is really fierce racing between Nelson, Bienkowski and Mads Buhr between 6th and 8th place. At the moment it's still as they were, but Bienkowski has had a bit of contact going into the hairpin, I believe, with Tommy Nelson, and this is allowing Scott Michaels to pull away again a little bit. He's, as Rob said before, he was struggling a little bit, but now he's pulling away. And it'll be interesting to see what happens when they come into sunset. Will any of them blink and go into the pits, or are they going to fight it out among the track?
Pit road is going to become such a busy place in the next couple of laps. Tommy Nielsen, just to give you an update on that Twister Racing car. He's fastest up on the races. Here he comes down on the outside, and Bienkowski, and it looks as though that Nielsen was going to give him this room, but then all of a sudden he comes back onto the racetrack. Bienkowski's fastest up on the races, 2 minute 1.139, and you compare that to Tommy Nielsen's a 2 minute 1.294, and round the outside he's going to go. He gets the run here. He will get the job done in turn 1. A little bit loose there on exit for both the drivers. Technically still side by side, and that was very close there for Tommy Nielsen. Pushed him all the way down to the inside wall. Bienkowski had to get out the gas a little bit. Now he's going to look to the outside line into turn 1. We're trying to do the cut under, but don't forget Mads Buhr is in this picture right there as well. Still on the outside line is Bienkowski. Going to try and go side by side. They touch a little bit there, and Bienkowski falls back into line, but I don't think he's done fighting for that position yet.
I don't think he's done fighting either, and there's a position change behind. Oliver Brandt has made his move on Mads Buhr, and also we saw the 2 Radicals car come into the pits. Pablo López and Scott Michaels have both come in, and Oliver Brandt took an advantage of the battling to go past Mads Buhr. Mads going to try and fight him going into the hairpin. Oliver's got the inside, and he's going to have that position.
So, Pablo López and Scott Michaels, the 2 Radical teammates, onto pit road on the same lap. Pablo López out and away. Scott Michaels going to be out and away about 5-6 seconds behind him. This is a big issue though, for Pablo López. He's come out behind Ren's Brokeman for the time being. So it looks like Pablo López lost himself an absolute ton of time there.
That is staggering, because López was quite a way in front of Ren's Brokeman. That is really interesting. brakeman's throwing himself out of Pablo López, and that's not something that I would. That's definitely not something I would have predicted when Pablo came into the pits.
Yeah, I'm just having a look to see whether he's been onto pit road. He didn't speed at all, so brakeman. I'm very concerned to see what happened there, but the issue is for López right now.
Contact there, brakeman. There's been a bit of contact, and that's going to allow Pablo López to go past one of those cars. There was contact, and Pablo López takes advantage, going past the car of brakeman. Yeah, he's gone past brakeman, and the car in front of Pablo López had contact with brakeman.
Yeah, and this is Ricardo Mejías, who I'm not sure, I don't think he's actually pitted yet. No, he hasn't pitted yet in this race. So Pablo López will want to get past him in the next couple of corners. You want to get past him as quickly as possible. This is hurting Pablo López right now in that Radical Steel Series car as they work themselves down into the S section of the racetrack once again. This fast double apex left-hander. We'll see whether López will try and dive it down the inside as they come down into the S's. He's looking already. He's going to try and make the move. He does make the move, and it's actually there. Just given up there by Ricardo in that 0-2 car. Very smart, because he was 2 seconds a lap slower than López was. Brokeman going past as well in the Infinity Esports car. And also Scott Michaels, unlucky as well. He came out right behind David Clark. So it looks as though that the Radical guys on pit road, Rob, lost themselves a lot of time, and they were very unlucky there.
Down the inside goes Renz, and it's coming It's a Renz brakeman. Oh, that is not that.
It was into Ricardo, actually. It was into Ricardo, and I've got a feeling that perhaps Pablo, I'm trying to figure out what happened, but Ricardo just got the huge draft down the back straightaway, and I think actually López got a slow down penalty. This is where this all started. So López cut the track, he had to slow that car down. In fact, he got sideways. This is what happened. López got sideways on the curb, on the exit Le Mans curve, turn number 16. This is what we talked about. You can use a lot of that curve, go a little bit too wide, all of a sudden you go head first into that inside retaining wall. Lost position to Brokeman, then down the inside came the 0-2 car, and it just looked as though he just didn't turn the 0-2 car at all. López had to make the corner eventually, and López spun that car around. He's lost the position now to Scott Michaels, his teammate. So the day from being in second place in this race, starting in fourth, moving up into second, Pablo López's day, as we've seen so often in the Proto Ice $1,000 Cup in the past, it's just come unglued in the middle stage of this race, Dan.
Yeah, it has. I want to quickly apologise to Renz Brakeman there for having saying he had involvement there, and he obviously didn't. Not very good for Pablo López at all. He just never seems to have the luck, but I'm sure that there may have been some new learns on his Spanish feed there, so that would be quite interesting to see. But yeah, not the sort of thing Pablo López really wanted. He's found himself behind Scott Michaels, and in fact, Scott Michaels did gain quite a bit against Pablo López on the pit stops. He's only about 3 or 4 seconds behind when they came out, and there was a lot more than that. So I wonder what happened there with Pablo in his pit stop, but something happened there because he lost a lot of time.
He did lose a lot of time.
Can I just add one more thing? When he came back on the track, he came out in front of Michaels and slowed Michaels down a little bit, but also come out to the sunset bend. Michaels had to dive on the inside and essentially denied Pablo the pits. And Pablo is driving a damaged car.
Yep, so Pablo López is struggling right now, and this is really hurting the Radical team. And let's not forget, we're talking about drivers, but we're talking about a team right now. It's just kind of hurt their own race, the Radical Steel Series guys. You know, we don't talk about driver points in this series. We talk about team points and team points only. And I'm sure Andy Kay, know Andy very well, he's going to have some very choice words for his drivers after this race. However, we've got 36 minutes of this race left to go. Enzo Bonito is your race leader. He hasn't yet made his pit stop. Dave Gelink in second also hasn't made his pit stop. Roland Ehnström in third hasn't made a pit stop. Tommy Nilsson fourth hasn't made a pit stop. Bienkowski in fifth hasn't made a pit stop. So this is that interesting stage of the race, and Timo, even when I talked to him, he was completely right. Some guys coming in early, some guys coming in at the halfway point, and then you got drivers like Enzo Bonito. We expect him to be in pit road in the next 5 minutes. But Enzo Bonito, we'll keep an eye on him, see if he comes. Yes, no, he's not. Looks like he's taking a much tighter apex into the final corner there, but he does not come into pit road just yet. Meanwhile, Tommy Nilsson, he spun that car. Tommy Nilsson into the wall there, and that was down out of, what's this, Le Mans corner. So the same place that Pablo López lost his car a couple of laps previously on that wide curve on the exit of Le Mans curve, turn 16. Tommy Nilsson, I don't think he realised that curve kind of ended, Rob. Spun that car out to the retaining wall, game over.
And he spun it again going into 17 sunset. And McLarens do not like curves.
Period.
Put it simply.
Yeah. I mean, you can set up your car to work better on curbs, but overall they don't like them. You get these cars to a track like Zolder, they really do struggle. The curbs there, you know, is such an important part of the racetrack. The curbs here, you want to abuse them. This track's a little bit like Imola, in the fact that, you know, normal cars, you want to abuse those curbs just a little bit. And for Tommy Nilsson, his day's come undone there in that Twister racing car, and he's going to be hugely annoyed by that. Turning our attention back to the race leader, Enzo Bonito. He's actually now catching some traffic. He's got Jean-Christophe Gugard, Simon Carr and Mako Bunken. They're battling for position ahead of him, and right now he's got to get himself, you know, past these drivers, and also hope that Dean, yes, he's 9.1 seconds back, but 9.1 seconds can evaporate pretty quickly, Dan.
It can evaporate very quickly, as we saw Pablo López with his pit stop, but that was quite a big gap which got shriveled down really. We've got a good battle on track for 5th place between Oliver Brandt and Mads Buhr going on as well. Mads Buhr really trying to get past Oliver Brandt again, who was opportunistic earlier on when the opportunity came to him. He didn't take a second invitation at that one, but Mads has been on his back bumper the rest of the time really, so it'll be interesting to see what goes on there, because Pawel Bienkowski is pulling away from the two of them as well, so which one of these will pit first, I wonder?
Anders Dahl comes out of pit road rather ahead of Scott Michaels.
Yeah, so cold tyres versus Scott's already quite warm tyres, so it's going to be very interesting next few laps.
And Anders Dahl representing Walk Racing here today. That is going to be a huge move there for position there for Anders Dahl to run through your top 10 as it stands. Remember, some of these guys haven't yet pitted. Enzo Bonito, still your race leader. Dave Gelink in second, Roland Ehnström third. Pawel Bienkowski in the 4th position. Oliver Brandt in 5th. Mads Buhr in 6th. He's now coming down onto pit road to give up that position to Luigi Nispilo, Andy Starr, Andrew Patina and Kevin Asher. They rounded out your top 10 at the end of the previous lap. But let's very quickly try and check in on Mads Buhr. We're going to get ourselves a replay very soon on Tommy Nilsson and his car spinning. But Mads Buhr down onto pit road, so he's going to make his one and only pit stop of the day, and he came in the 6th position. It's going to be interesting to see where he comes out on that Anders Dahl.
Taking a second tour, sorry to interrupt you, straight down the inside, fantastic move, late on the brakes, and Roland Ehnström, his patience has finally seen a reward. It was a great move on Gelink. He's been sizing that one up now for about 3 or 4 laps down the inside, and I don't think Gelink's going to take nice laps. Going to try and get up again, and Gelink's gone past. This is great racing by these two, and Gelink takes a position back again.
So it is still ineX Racing 1 and 2 in this race, with Pablo López out of the race. It is currently in ineX Racing 1-2. Roland Ehnström in that 3rd position. He tried to make that move down to the air, but he made that move happen. But it does seem to be that as soon as Dave Gelink's behind another car, that's when it works best. And Rob, we talked about this before, Ehnström running left wing, he doesn't let that car as much in clean air. And for Ehnström, as soon as he got ahead, that car just handled completely differently.
Yeah, look at that little twitch come out of Le Mans there again. He almost had it on opposite lock. He does handle the car nicely, doesn't he?
He does. It really is. I mean, Roland Ehnström, let's not forget, he retired from the World Championship Series from this year. He had a place in the 2013 iRacing.com World Championship Series, which of course is presented to you rest of the season by Glacier TV. But he decided to go into other avenues, go into GT racing. In fact, he's coming down to pit road, and also is Dave Gelink, and they come in literally nose to tail. This is going to be interesting. Ehnström actually gained all that time he lost on that run into pit road. Behind him, Pawel Bienkowski, is he going to come in? Yes, he is as well. So this is pit stop guy, and Oliver Brandt stays out on the racetrack. This is what I expected from him. Brandt is very good at saving a lap or so worth of fuel and working it to his advantage. Enzo Bonito also still out on the racetrack, but this is what we're paying our attention to right now. Dave Gelink, Roland Ehnström on pit road together. Which one of them is going to get the job first? This is going to determine almost who will likely finish this race in the 2nd position. Mads Buhr could luck out a little bit as well. If these two struggle, then carry on fighting once they come out. There's a chance he could come back into play. Pawel Bienkowski as well. Kevin Asher is currently sat on pit road. We're still waiting. And Ehnström comes out way ahead there of Dave Gelink. About 4 seconds ahead of Dave Gelink.
That's interesting. Maybe different tyres.
Gelink missed his pit box. Gelink missed his pit box. We've got word there from our cameraman, Jonas Matikayan, that Dave Gelink missed his pit box when he came in. Just having a look to see how much that would have hurt him. But as they came in, Dave Gelink, he was the first one to come in. In fact, no, he was yeah, he had to reverse. And he was stuck there for about a second and a half before he realised he was too far forward, and then he lost more time on the way out as well. So, Dave Gelink has now fallen back, and there's a huge gap between Armstrong and Dave Gelink. So for a while, it looked as though it was going to be an ineX Racing 1-2. Now Roland Ehnström is up in that Danielsson Motorsports car into the second position, Rob.
And fantastic. Fantastic racing. So we're going to see Roland, we're going to see his pace now out of probably about the second lap in. We'll see him set quite a quick time. He lit up the rears coming out of the exit. It was fantastic. Out of pit exit. It was a really, really good sight to see.
Checking in very quickly, we've got Rens Broekman, who's sat in the 10th position. Mads Buhr being able to make that move in Rens Broekman, but here comes Broekman. He looked down to the inside. He's not that good on the brakes, however. And right now, we've got Anders Dahl there as well. Just got a little bit of a love tap from Pawel Bienkowski. Bienkowski lost out quite heavily in that sequence of pit stops, but right now, you've got two walk racing drivers. They are sat in the 10th and 12th positions respectively. Rens Broekman in that sandwich right now, and also Enzo Bonito onto pit road, guys. Bonito onto pit road, Oliver Brandt also now down onto pit road. So, we've got our first and fourth place drivers onto pit road. We'll see what Oliver Brandt does, we'll see what Enzo Bonito does. For Bonito, it's good onto pit road, it was good into his pit box, no issues for him at all. And this is a slippery pit road, let's not forget, as Bonito comes back out. I want to turn my attention now to Oliver Brandt, because Bonito has got that race lead back, and a bit of a sizable gap there over his nearest rival. But Oliver Brandt, he's now down off the track, he's just filling that car up with fuel. He has to take less fuel, remember, than number of the guys around him. We've only got 28 minutes left of this race, as Brandt now is out and away. And let's see where he feeds back into this, because he's got, actually, he's going to possibly come out, he will come out ahead of Mads Buhr, so let's talk about it. He's got himself a big gap there. Mads Buhr's going to close it down, so work themselves down into turn number 2, but Oliver Brandt, Rob, has been able to leapfrog all of them, just as I predicted early on in this race.
And he's going to back him up now with his tyres, and there's a big fight going on behind with, I think, Pablo.
Yep, so we've got, what, a 5, 6, 7 car battle right now. Scott Michaels, by the way, has allowed Pablo López to go past him. López still struggling with what is a slightly damaged car, but right now you've got Oliver Brandt at the front of this train. He's come out on cold tyres. Now is going to be the critical factor for him. He's got to get those tyres up to grip. It's down to the outside is Mads Buhr, not going to be able to get the job done, and he again left that door open for Broekman to make a half move down to the inside, but Brandt is leading that pack of drivers. Mads Buhr is second in that pack. Right now it's Brandt in the 5th position, Mads Buhr in 6th, Rens Broekman 7th, Anders Dahl in 8th, Pawel Bienkowski in 9th, and Luigi Despilo down in 10th, and they all came together almost there down in turn number 9. Oh, we got a spin, we got 2 spins there, and it almost went wrong for all those drivers, but Anders Dahl spun that car around there. I was just about to say, it's that same place that Ricco Alatalo had that famous moment in the Pro Tour's $1,000 cut. But Anders Dahl there, who was running at the start of that lap in the 8th position, now falls out of contention. And it was very lucky though there, Dan, that we didn't have a much bigger accident.
That was a massive gaggle of cars racing hard for position there, and as you said, it is definitely unlucky that it ended that way.
So, let's settle it down for a moment. Let's see what happens with Oliver Brandt. He's actually been able to pull out a bit of a gap over Mads Buhr. But, it's, I tell you what, his Pawel Bienkowski's been driving like a man on a mission in this race. But, he's always got, I think probably he's thinking he's in a BTCC race, because he's really been using that front bumper quite a bit in this race.
I'm going to go out there and say not the best driving standards from him. The front of his car is about a foot shorter than every other McLaren out on that circuit.
And he's currently running at the rear of this pack. In fact, I believe he has actually got some damage to that race car now, because he has fallen quite dramatically off the pace from the rest of these drivers. So I'm just going to try and have a look if I can get a decent camera angle from the front of his car. There's a little bit of damage, not too much, but that mid-pack really is close together once again here on this racetrack. We've got 25 minutes left of this race to go at the line, and we'll run through your top 10 momentarily. Enzo Bonito has got himself a second gap to Frederick Tackman, who I believe hasn't yet pitted. In fact, no, I believe he has now pitted. He's down into the 15th position, so he's the last of the guys, the top guys who make their pit stop. Roland Ehnström is in 2nd, Dave Gelink in 3rd, and then Oliver Brandt up into 4th, Mads Buhr in 5th, Rens Broekman in 6th, Pawel Bienkowski in 7th, Luigi Despilo in the 8th position, Pablo López back up into 9th, and Scott Michaels rounding out your top 10. David Medisa in the 11th position, Anders Stardom into 12th, Andres Katina into 14th position. In fact, he's just actually needed to get up a position there. He managed to pass Kevin Asher, so he's now moved up a spot. And then we've got ourselves, Katina 14th, Frederick Tackman 15th, and then Ricardo Shaven in the 16th position, Marcin Shepbeck in 17th, and Tia Bubkek in the 18th spot, Thomas Meglak in 19th, and then David Clark is scored multiple laps down. But in the 20th position, we have Jesper Torberg Nilsson running in the 20th spot. Important thing is right now, though, that pack, it looks like Oliver Brandt was able to pull out a gap, and a quite sizable one at that, for that first lap. But now Mads Burt is right back on the attack there.
Yeah, the fact that that group dispersed as such, I think, has helped Oliver Brandt, because I think he was in a bit of danger with those big nasty McLarens all coming for him. But Mads Burt he's going to try and make that move, but it's better for him to defend from one than it is to defend from a whole group of them. And throughout that whole pit stop sequence, the two drivers that have really lost out were the two radical drivers, Pablo López and Scott Michaels, who are both in the top 6. Pablo López was in 2nd, and Scott Michaels was in 5th, 6th position. Now he's found himself down in 9th and 10th, so really, the radicals have really lost out during the pit stops there.
But Pablo López running the 9th position, he's got a chance to try and make the move on some of these other drivers. And if he can just keep his head cool, as you see that car ahead of him, that is Luigi there, who went a little bit wide on the exit of turn 4. This is now going to allow Pablo the chance to perhaps stick it down the inside, coming down into turn number 6 ahead. And once again, the last late breakers, López down to the inside, will complete the pass. Almost contact there between those two drivers. A little bit of door rubbing, but López now up into the 8th position. He is a man possessed right now. Let's not forget, this is the guy who qualified 4th, able to get himself up into 2nd position the first couple of laps of the race. Now down into 8th after some issues with his teammate and a bad pit stop, as Michael's also there being able to get past Luigi. So he's now up into the 9th position. López in 8th right now. He's got 2 guys ahead of him, who, let's be honest, he can very easily get past, as the car has actually gone very wide there as well. And that was the lap car Kevin Oliver Adam, just letting Mads Burt and Oliver Rank go past.
Yeah, Pablo López is finding himself right in the heat of battle again, and I think he can probably get past these two of Bienkowski and Brakeman. I think he might be able to get a top 5 out of this. He's got Mads Burt and Oliver Brandt in front of him, and even with a damaged car, I do fancy Pablo's chances of a bit of a recovery from his bad position.
Bit of recovery indeed, and we've seen this many times before on Glacier TV. Don't forget, if you'd like to keep in contact with any of Glacier TV's previous broadcasts, go to youtube.com/Glacier TV. Meanwhile, Enzo Bonito right now with a 10.6 second gap over Roland Ehnström. And I always feel bad for, the leader in a race like this, because let's not take anything away from Enzo. He's been able to manage that gap for the first stint of this race, and then he's been able to pull out a sizable gap over Roland Ehnström. He's now sat in that 2nd position. But we haven't talked about him, Rob, because it's all been going on behind him.
Yeah, I guess a nice little quiet victory would be what he would take over, say, Dave Gelink, who's had a bit of a fight early race, so I think he'll take it. Oh, we've got a drive-through penalty.
Yep, that's with the number 1 car. That is Pawel Bienkowski for causing a collision. And that was what we saw on your screens a couple of laps ago, Rob.
Yep, and bravo, we have live race stewards here, and this is the first call they've made, and fantastic call.
Yep, so Bienkowski will have to come down pit road. 45 miles an hour is the speed here on pit road. He's going to have to drive that car all the way down what's actually one of the longest pit roads in all of North American racing. Very slow, very boring. And don't forget then, on the way out, he's also got to hold that outside line until the merge point as well. He's now just allowed Pablo López to go past. There's no point in him right now defending his position too much. He's just got to get that car done. He has 3 laps to do the drive-through penalty. Otherwise, race control will stop scoring him. They'll disqualify him from the race. And that number 1 car, you're right.
Mads just popped right.
And Mads Burt back up into the 4th position. But let's go back to Oliver Brandt, because, we talked about this earlier on. We said that he'll charge. He was the last driver onto pit road. And Rob, how many times did we see that in the supercar? Brandt saving a little bit of fuel early in the race, saving his tyres, and just going for it. And he came out in 4th, he's now falling back into 5th. But this is now interesting going to be the test. If Oliver Brandt can get back past Mads Burt in the final 20 minutes and 10 seconds of this race.
And I think he will. I mean, he didn't give that position up by choice. They both went wide coming out of corner number 15, I believe. And, a little switch coming out of the apex for Mr. Brandt there. That's what Sunset Bend will do with its numerous little bumps.
Yeah, so many bumps on in turn 17. This is what we talked about early on as well. There is no one quick line to that corner, and it all depends on, you know, the ride height of your car, how it's set up to handle the bumps. You've got your rebound stiffness, your bump stiffness, and certain guys can take different lines to others. And if you're on your preferred line lap after lap, that's great. When you're in traffic like this, you sometimes have to take a different line onto the racetrack. And Oliver Brandt, he's close actually as they work themselves on the exit turn 4. A little bit of a wiggle there from Max Burr, but Brandt goes into the grass there as well. That's going to negate the advantage that he would have got. Now having to work the outside lines, they come down into the hairpin. Turn number 6 once again. And that, right now, for Oliver Brandt, this is the best battle on the racetrack. Himself in 5th and Max Burr in 4th.
Yeah, I think Oliver Brandt may be disappointed there. He did, as Rob said, he didn't give up the place through his own hard will. It's literally, they came out of Tower Corner and Brandt had more wheels on the dirt than Burr did, and Burr was just able to power through.
So to run through your top 10, it's still Enzo Bonito, your race leader. Roland Ehnström in 2nd, Dave Gelink 3rd, Mads Burr 4th, Oliver Brandt in 5th. Rens Broekman in 6th, Pablo López in 7th, Luigi Despilo in 8th, Scott Michaels in 9th, and JB Medisa in rounding out your top 10. And it looks like Bienkowski has come down on the pit road to serve his penalty, Rob.
Yes, he's come in. I believe he's out in 11th place behind JB and Mercedes. So when Pawel got out from behind Tommy Nielsen, he set his 2nd fastest lap, and that was pretty much the first lap for the entire race. He's not been stuck behind someone, so he's got about 4 seconds now to catch up with JB. So we're going to see some fast laps from him.
He's actually in the 17th position. The time scoring hasn't quite updated yet, but he's in 17th position. Right now he's 6.1 seconds behind. It looks as though it's Marcin there in the 16th position in that 23 car who is behind. So a lot of time to gain for him. However, his fastest lap of the race is 2 minute 1.139. The guy he's catching, fastest lap of the race is a 2 minute 1.5. And actually right now Marcin is battling Ricardo Chavion for the 16th and 17th positions on the racetrack. So it's very close between these guys right now. And this is actually going to help Bienkowski try and drive through the field a little bit. Meanwhile, Oliver Brandt, it looks like he's side by side as they try to work through 4. Will Brandt try and get the line here? He's got a better run into the corner, but now he'll have to slot back in behind as they work themselves. But a good run out the corner, he can try and slot it down the inside. You'll see Mads Burr now go defensive as they work themselves down into the hairpin. Will Brandt try and make it work on the outside line? He's not got a car that close behind him. Rens Broekman's a full half seconds back. Oliver Brandt goes to the outside. He's going to try and complete the pass. He's got a good run through the corner for the exit of the corner as well. Oh, they almost touched there, as close to contact as possible. Brandt goes sideways and he'll fall back in behind. And here comes Broekman. He's going to try and take that position away. Oliver Brandt held on the outside line. He's going to have to try and make it work, but round the outside he goes. And he's going to have the inside line to the next corner if he can make it stick now. Oliver Brandt, what a move there. He's almost got the job done. They almost touched there. But still they carry on, and Brandt now might just be able to get the job done. Back up into 4th, and he goes wide.
There's a lot of positions there. In fact, he's lost 3 positions. Burr has gone past on with Broekman and Pablo López. That was what we like to see, side-by-side racing for nearly half a lap with very minimal, if any, contact at all. And Pablo López now tries to make a move on Rens Broekman and Pablo López down the inside. There's another position there for Pablo López. There's 2 positions in half a lap for the Radicals driver.
Yep, and that was horrible there for Oliver Brandt and driving to Tristan Racing. He started that lap in the 5th position, almost up into the 4th spot. Now he's going to have that work to do all over again. His first victim will be Rens Broekman, who lost a position that lap as well. But this is going to go all the way to the end. We have ourselves 16 minutes left on the play clock as we're working ourselves now on the conclusion of lap number 36 for these drivers. Meanwhile, you're also going to get a couple of guys coming back into the picture a little bit. Perhaps Scott Michaels might come back into play. Perhaps JB Medisa might come back into play if they're not careful.
Yeah, Mercedes and Scott Michaels may come back into play, and I think Scott Michaels is definitely about 6 car lengths, I'd say, away from coming onto the back of this little train here. So Scott Michaels will be hoping to keep on battling, because it's just drawing him closer and closer to those 4 in front.
Oliver Brandt getting very sideways. He really is pushing that car to the absolute limit right now, Rob.
Yep, I've got an update for Pawel Watch for you after he's had his pit stop serve penalty. He's now up to 16th position, taking Ricciardo.
and the guy who was involved in the incident with him, Anders Dahl, is actually now fallen back into the 12th position on the racetrack. Look at Frederick Tackman last time by. Anders Dahl was faster, but only by 4/100ths of a second on the racetrack. So there's still a lot to play for right now in the battle for the 11th and 12th positions on the racetrack. Right now, the longest guy in the top 10 is Luigi Nispilio, who's sat in the 10th position. He's trying his hardest to catch JB Medisa, but like last time by, it was 3/10 of a lap slow. He's falling very quickly from the rear of that Falcon GP car of JB, and meanwhile, JB is actually catching Scott Michaels. Scott Michaels in turn, last time, he's actually starting to catch now Oliver Brown. That gap right now is only 1.4 seconds on the racetrack as Oliver Brown right on the rear there of Renz Brokeman. He just is all over the rear of that car. So close to turning Brokeman, but thankfully they both kept it together. Unfortunately for Brandt, he lost himself at least 2.5 tenths in that one corner alone.
Yeah, that's going to let Scott Michaels come right back into play. He's near enough right back on them. We said it was about 6 car lengths before, and I think he's closed another couple there. So Scott Michaels coming in closer, but these 4 guys in front of him really put on the show here for us. They've Mads Pablo López, and I said before about Pablo maybe getting in top 5, but he is indeed in 5th place. So a top 5 at the moment for Pablo López after his tribulations today.
And Rob, it looks like you found your best team name today.
Yeah, Roaring Pipes Maniacs, being driven very nicely by Marcin and Kevin Asher for 14th and 15th position. What a fantastic name. I'm a quarter Scottish, so Roaring Pipes Maniacs works for me.
In fact, it's possibly the best name I've seen in all of iRacing since the good old Pink and Brown.
I miss Pink and Brown.
Yeah.
I regularly miss Pink and Brown.
Oliver Brandt goes wide once again. He really has overworked his tyres a little bit now, and he's in that 8th position. Gonna check back in on your race leader, Enzo Bonito, because he's right back down into that kind of, let's just manage the gap mode. In fact, we won't go back to him, because Pablo López looking very racy now on the rear of Mads Buhr, as he works himself out of the hairpin, coming down once again into turn number 8. Pablo López going to look down to the inside. Will he get the job done? Yes, almost. Now he can just try and dive it into the corner. He'll get a good run out of here. López back up into 4th.
Good move there from Pablo López. He's got 20 seconds before he catches the next car. So I think unless there's any dramas in front, 4th is the best Pablo López can have out. There's a bit of a twitch there from the rear of the car. Mads Buhr had a slight twitch as well, but Pablo López has done well to get back into 4th position. And it seems that López, Brakeman and Buhr are starting to pull away a bit now from Oliver Brandt. They got about half a second over the number 91 car.
Last time by the way, Enzo Bonito just set one of his fastest laps of the race, a 2-minute flat .775. His fastest lap of the race, he set that on lap number 33, so not that long ago, a 2-minute flat .314. And he's just trying to do the Sebastian Vettel thing right now, I think, you know. He cools his tyres down for a lap or so, Rob, gets himself in position, does a flying lap, saying, I can go a little bit faster, does it again.
Yep, racecraft.
I can also see a black flag coming from the starter stand. That's number 32. So Frederick Tapman's been black flag. You can see the marshal on the starter's post with that board. Be interesting to see what that was for, but there's a black flag coming up.
Pablo López, meanwhile, it looks as though he is under attack from Mads Buhr once again. So coming down into turn number 2. Mads Buhr is not going to give up the fight here that easily, Rob.
No, as that's pretty much what he does. I'm just having a little bit further back. I just saw Carlos Molina going very fast. I was actually watching what you were doing. We just had a car 32 stop and go for causing a collision as well from the race stewards.
Yeah, that's the one that you were just talking about, Dan.
Yeah, Frederick Tapman. I didn't actually see the incident, but he's going to have a stop-go penalty, and that's an even stricter punishment than what we saw for Pawel Bienkowski. So it must have been a collision which has caused some severe damage to someone else's race.
Yeah, we'll try and get word from the Screws on the reason why they chose the black flag stop and hold over the the drive-through penalty that we saw from Bienkowski earlier on. We'll try and get word on that. But with 10 minutes of the race left to go, the question is going to be right now on the racetrack, the battle between Pablo López in 4th and Mads Buhr in 5th, Dan.
Yeah, Pablo López and Mads Buhr fighting hard. Mads Buhr, as we saw in the last lap, tried to get it back together. It'll be interesting to see now if he'll try and make the same move. He's got a couple of good opportunities coming up. If he gets to run out of Le Mans, he's got the Ulman Straight and Sunset Bend, but he could also try and hold back and to go into turn number 1 with the turn 1, 2, 3 section. So this next half lap's will be quite crucial for Pablo López. if he can keep hold of that 4th position. And as you see earlier, Pablo trying to break that draft coming down the Almond Straight. He does not want Buhr getting any closer and getting any sort of an advantage. This is very smart driving from Pablo López.
Well, I've just spoken to race control. What they said with the 32 car was he was involved actually in 2 incidents earlier on the race. Now, neither of them were actually anything that was worth giving a black flag for. But when they took into account his previous incident, which was, yes, more severe than what we saw with Bienkowski earlier on, and added them 2 into it, that is the reason why he got the stop and hold. So, race control here, they're putting the hammer down, you know. They'll let you have a couple of free shots, but after that, Rob, they really are going to make you pay.
Yep, absolutely. Let's have a little race, look further back. We were talking about JB Mesida and Pawel as well. Pawel's now up in the 15th. JB, who was very, very quick in the opening portion of the race, is about a second behind Scott Michaels in 8th position.
And for Scott Michaels, it looks as though he's struggling a little bit with tyres right now in that 36 car. Having a look at their lap time, Scott Michaels last time, 2-minute 1.115. Compare that to a 2-minute flat 0.945 JB Mesida. So let's not forget, all of these guys in the top 10, they are capable of doing 2-minute flats, Dan. It just seems to be the timing when they can do it. It seems to be the consistency when they can do it. That really is the difference maker between these top 10. Because let's not forget, the entirety of the top 10 is separated by less than 35 seconds on the racetrack, and more importantly as well, they're running at the moment very consistently lap times. It is more the kind of sequence of pit stops that made these big gaps.
Yeah, we're starting to see, as we saw at the beginning of the race, they're all starting to bunch up again at the start, as obviously they were very, very close with the fierce racing. It sort of cooled down a little bit in certain sections towards the middle of the race with the pit stops and that, and now they all seem to be bunching back together. We're talking about JB Mesida, and he's actually catching up this group of cars because he wasn't really near Scott Michaels before, and now he's sort of coming back onto the end of it again. So then there's quite a few cars in that little bunch there. You got Pablo López in 4th, right the way back to Scott Michaels, and then JB Mesida is ever slightly coming into the back of that as well. So we could have some fireworks here, and we're coming up now, so the last 8-7 minutes of this race, I'm expecting some fireworks.
Yeah, don't forget, we've only got ourselves 7 minutes and 50 seconds left on the clock. And don't forget also, Glacier TV continues its presentation of the iRacing.com World Championship Series. Its next round will be in just 9 days' time. And that will be held on the 13th of April 2013. That will be coming from Road America, one of the most famous racetracks in all of North America. Place host of the 4th round of the iRacing.com World Championship Series. And Glacier TV Ice Lounge makes its triumphant return this weekend as well, and that will be start time 2 PM GMT. Meanwhile, back to racing here at Sebring, and that battle between Scott Michaels and Mesida, it looks so that, you know, Mesida last time by, and having a look at the lap times, it looks as though last time by, they were literally, he was 4 tenths of a lap faster. The issue is, however, that they all kind of now catching the rear of this train, which is being held by Pablo López in 4th, Matt Buhr in 5th, British Brokerman in 6th, Oliver Brandt in 7th. So now they kind of hit that brick wall, and it's going to be a case of who makes what move in the last couple of laps.
Yeah, it's all going to go down to, yeah, as you said, the last couple of laps. We're running out of time very, very quickly here, so they haven't got long to make these moves, and them all going so close, I think we might see some moves being made, but it seems as though Pablo López, Mads Buhr, Rens Brakeman are starting to pull away now from that second group with Oliver Brandt, Scott Michaels and JB Mesida in, so that looks like that's maybe our entertainment in that big pack may be ruined, because the top 3 are starting to pull away from the second 3 in that group.
And let's talk about strategy very quickly, Rob, because we talked about strategy for pit stops and all that sort of the race, but there's that little bit of strategy left to go as well, and it all comes down to when Enzo Bonito crosses the line. Now, we've seen this so often in GT racing. If Bonito, with the pace that he's doing, they actually come to a start-finish line before the white flag comes out and has to do that extra lap, that's going to make things very interesting, because some of these guys might be very light on fuel, and the way they put the fuel into these cars, normally they're right in between a number, and they'll always take the risk. And some of these guys might be trying to save, you know, a couple of ounces of fuel right now.
Well, I don't really see him close to anyone to be able to get up and pass. Really, there's only tack in front of him that's going to be close. I don't see anyone really being able to lift off. I think they might just change their engine mapping instead.
I was talking about the guys behind.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah, that just race to the death, guys. Come on.
Just race to the death. Rob Sutherland always liking racing here. But we've got ourselves 5 minutes left to go of this race. of course, including the last lap as well, when the white flag comes out to signal the last lap of the race. In fact, let's go and try and see where Enzo Bonito is on the racetrack. We can probably do the math from here. He's currently working himself down into that double apex left-hander. So I tell you what, guys, it's actually going to be very close, because when you consider the lap is it's about 2 minutes long, he's going to come past the start finish line with about 20 seconds left on the clock. So it'll be very, very close actually to when he passes the start finish line. In fact, he's working himself down the back straightaway now. So there is going to be at the line 3 more laps left to go of this race.
Yeah, and also us behind, we said about the battle, and Oliver Brandt is under pressure here from Scott Michaels. Scott Michaels had a little half look there, but I think Scott Michaels and JB Masida may be in a better position here than Oliver Brandt. It's coming towards the end of this race, and I think it won't be long before we see Scott Michaels make the move. In fact, he's going to try and make a look down here. Another sticking his nose out. He's telling Oliver Brandt he's there, but as a result, he could lose out to JB Masida down the straight with the loss of momentum he's had there. But they are as they are at the moment. Scott Michaels in front of JB Masida. We're looking at a battle for 8th place at the moment, and as I said before, there's definitely a clear gap now between Oliver Brandt in 7th and Rens Brakeman in 6th, as Scott Michaels gets ever closer to the car of Oliver Brandt as they come down the straight. Turn 1, we may see Scott Michaels take another little look.
So Enzo Bonito working himself right now out of the hairpin. Behind him, Roland Ehnström in 2nd, Dave Gelink in 3rd, Pablo López in the 4th position, and this is where the train starts. Mads Buhr in the 5th spot, Rens Brakeman in 6th, Oliver Brandt in 7th. It's just actually fallen back behind these 3 drivers for the time being, so we're now up to 2 packs. The second pack has got Scott Michaels in it, and also JB Masida, and also you've got Lucian Esposito catching, but he's not going to be quite close enough. And I saw there, Oliver Brandt went very wide on the exit of turn number 4. Here comes Scott Michaels to the outside. It's going to be the last late breakers, but we know how good Brandt is on the outside line, and he's not going to get the job done there. So Oliver Brandt keeps that position, but then he goes loose on the exit of the corner. Now Michael's going to go past, almost got pushed onto the grass there, and that allowed Brandt to come back into play. We've got these 3 guys now separated by just 2 tenths of a second on the racetrack. Masida is right there as well on the outside line. Scott Michaels, this is where López made the move for the time being. He gets past, and now Masida try and keep his momentum, try and get past in the next corner. He's going to try and look down to the inside. No, he won't, but it's all hotting up here in the last couple of laps of this race. Importantly, Scott Michaels back up into the 7th position.
Yeah, Scott Michaels back into 7th, and I said before about Oliver Brandt maybe struggling with his tyres. Now Masida tries to make a half lunge there down the inside as well. This is going to be just what Scott Michaels wanted to see. He's going to be able to pull out a couple of car lengths, and in front of them as well, we got the 3 cars, López, Buhr and Brakeman, fighting hard as well. I think here that
Masida on the outside, so Masida on the outside, he's going to try and make that pass, coming down into Sunset Bend. He's almost clear, he's going to have pretty much whatever line he wants to have. Oliver Brandt's going to have to hold it on the inside. Masida actually was clear before they came into the corner. Brandt gets a much better run through the corner, but Masida on the outside line, he's going to try and get the job done. Brandt isn't going to be able to cut across. Masida to go out the inside line. We've got ourselves a lap and a bit left to go of this race. And for Masida, he's got the inside line coming down into turn number 1. He will be able to complete the pass. And Oliver Brandt losing 2 places, and there's many laps here in this race. He's going to try and get the outside momentum, look down into turn number 2, but he's not going to be quite close enough, guys.
No, not quite close enough, and it's a position gain now for JB Masida. But then Oliver Brandt trying to go down the inside. Masida maybe give him half an opportunity there. Would be down the inside for Oliver Brandt at the hairpin, but I think Masida's he's far too wide for that. He's going to try and cover it off. But in fact, I didn't think he was going to cover it off there for a second, but he did just about do what was required.
Outside. Brandt on the outside, he's not going to be close enough to make the pass now. Now he will try to cut under once again. We've actually been able to see guys here on the outside line make the move. This is where it's going to be interesting. But meanwhile, we've got Enzo Bonito. He's coming out onto the back straightaway. It's going to be close, but it looks as though we're going to get the white flag this time by. So there will be 1 more lap left to go of this race. As it comes down into Sunset Bend, turn number 17, keeping an eye on the clock. There are 27 seconds left of this race. as Enzo Bonito comes out of the final corner. He hasn't got a big enough gap to just slow it down. He will have to take the white flag. This time by, guys, the white flag in hand. One more lap to go here at Sebring.
Yeah, Enzo Bonito, as you said, well, we haven't raced much about him, but he's driven a really good performance. He's very much showing why he's got that black stripe. He's a professional driver in terms of iRacing. He's in the Drivers' World Championship, and he's just put a fantastic drive in. He's not really had much opposition the whole race, really. Right from those first couple of laps, he managed to pull clear of the rest of the field, and he's just maintained the gap for the whole race. And different challengers, Ehnström, López, Gelink. I think the race might have been a bit different had Pablo López not had these issues at the pit stops. He was seen to be inching ever closer to Bonito, so I think we were robbed of that battle for the lead between Bonito and Pablo López, but it's taken nothing away for Enzo Bonito. He's going to be a quite worthy winner if he can keep it on the track for his last half a lap.
Yep, Enzo Bonito is working himself now down into the second portion of this racetrack very quickly, keeping an eye on Pablo López. Got Mads Buhr half a second back, so unless López messes up this corner, it looks like he will be safe on that run down into hairpin. Indeed, he gets a better run there than Mads Buhr coming into that section of the racetrack. Broken, looks like he's faded for the day as well. Scott Michaels now got a big gap over JB Bonito. Arno Bryant also faded. I tell you what, we'll talk about this after the race, but this is exactly what I was talking about. This was it, because it looks like a number of these drivers now are struggling to save fuel. We'll talk about that post-race, because Enzo Bonito coming down in turn number 16, the Mont Bend, for the final time of this race. He's got lap traffic ahead of him. This is David Clark. He's going to go a second lap down. Bonito will just easily pull to the outside line. He's got a 12-second gap over Roland Ehnström. I tell you what, if he had to turn the engine off, he could do so and still come home and win this race. But the 05 car has also got Simon Hill out of fuel there on the last lap of the race. And Enzo Bonito coming out of Sunset Bend for the final time, and he's going to take victory here at Sebring in the first round of the STC Championship. The rnet.net 90 minutes of Sebring goes to Enzo Bonito. Second place, that looks like it's going to go to Roland Ehnström coming out the final corner. He now can come past the start finish line. In third place will be Dave Gelink, so it'll be a first and third place there for Team ineX Racing. And then in fourth, we're just waiting now for Pablo Paycheck López. He had the drive of his life in that second stint. After everything that happened on pit road, he comes back to get fourth position. That car on the inside line is actually very dangerous. You're going to have to keep an eye out on that. Broadman actually having to go wide there to avoid him. But it's going to be López coming home in fourth. It's going to be Mads Buhr coming home in fifth. Actually, what just happened with Pablo López? No, he's classified in fourth. And then Mads Buhr in fifth. And then Broadman running out your top six.
And that does conclude a fantastic race from Sebring. 90 minutes, we saw a bit of everything. We saw some good overtaking, we saw some good defending. It's been a very good race all through the field, really. We haven't had a dull moment, in all honesty, in the whole 90 minutes. It's a fantastic race. But as you said before, it's a good result for the Enzo Bonito to win this race, and for Dave Gelink in third place. That's very good for their team total out to the first round.
I think Pawel's had a crash in 17th.
So it looks as though his day goes from bad to worse at the end of this race, and we'll see where he comes home. We'll run through your final race results, but before I go any further, and I would like to very quickly apologise to Hampus Anderson, but let's talk about strategy one more time. And guys, I said that some of these guys are going to be light on fuel. People like Oliver Brandt, David Lee, they had to coast their car across the line that last lap of the race.
Yeah, they're very, very marginal on fuel. As you said before, Will, they do like to leave it very, very tight. They do not want to carry that extra bit of weight. And in some cases, it seems that Bonito crossing the line when he did just before the clock running out has cost some people dearly on that last lap.
So we've got a bit of a radical formation lap going on right now with Scott Michaels and Pablo Paycheck López. Don't forget, keep an eye out on Pablo López's stream all the way through the season by going to racedepartment.com. That's to you by Black Steel Series team. However, we're just waiting for the last of these guys to come past the start-finish line. It looks like they have all indeed done so now. So, without any further ado, it's time to run through your final race results. And in the first position, Enzo Bonito takes home victory in a time of 1 hour and 30 minutes. over Roland Ehnström in the second position, and then Dave Gelink comes home in the third position here. This has to bear me one moment because my timing and scoring is a little bit messed up. In fourth place is Pablo López. In fifth is Matt Buhr. In sixth is Enzo Bonito. In seventh is Scott Michaels. In eighth is JB Medisa. In the ninth position is Oliver Brand. 10th is Luigi Espurio. In 11th, Anders Dahl. In 12th is Andres Cortana. 13th is Kevin Asher. 14th is Ricardo Chavon. 15th is Theo Bubkic. In 16th is Jamie Rushworth. 17th is Carlos Casas. 18th is Simon Carr. 19th is Frederick Tackman. 20th is Pawel Bienkowski. The rest of the results coming up on your screen momentarily. We had a total of 23 cars finishing on the lead lap. And Dan, give me a drive of the race.
I'm going to have to go for the easy one and say Enzo Bonito, really, because he really did show his class. Also, Pablo López deserves a mention for that fight back. It had been very easy for him to be dejected, lose morale, and not fight so hard, but he came back really well. But I think Enzo Bonito, really, he made the race his own.
I'm going to have to give it to Pablo López as well, actually, because you know what, everything he said is completely right. I mean, he started this race in fourth, he worked up to second position, he had that moment in pit road, not really his fault, still able to get himself up into fourth position. Let's not forget, at one point he was behind his teammate Scott Michaels. In the end, he finished 7 seconds ahead of his teammate Scott Michaels. So very interesting there for Pablo López, and it'll be interesting to see in the next round what happens to him as well. Very quickly moving on, we're going to have a quick chat now. In fact, we're going to try and have a quick chat in just a moment. But yeah, Rob, give us your drive today.
Oh, blimey, so many. Actually, to be honest, coming into Sebring, I was thinking, oh, Sebring again. But this has been one of the best races in ages. Drive of the day, busiest drive of the day by miles is Mads Buhr. Best drive of the day, easy to say Enzo, but Roland Ehnström was pretty damn impressive.
He was indeed, and we are going to try and have a quick chat with Roland Ehnström in just a couple of moments. We'll also try and talk to Enzo Bonito as well. But to run through the race for those of you who are just joining us, where the hell have you been for the last 90 minutes? Catch it all up on YouTube. But Enzo Bonito taking home victory. Pretty much a lights to flag victory for him. The start of the race, you had a good start there for Dave Gelink. He was able to get himself up into second position momentarily. Ehnström fell back into third and then into fourth. And Pablo López was able to get himself up into second position of the race. And that is how it kind of stayed until the first pit stop, the only pit stop of the day, when López fell back. From there, he was able to get Roland Ehnström and make that move on Dave Gelink to get himself back up into the second position. And then Gelink settled for third, Pablo López for fourth. And then Mads Buhr, let's not forget about him. He started that race in fifth. He came home in a solid top 5 as well. Now, to talk to your second place driver, Roland Ehnström, welcome to the rSeat.net podium. Congratulations on taking second place here in the rSeat.net, 90 minutes of Sebring here today. And it was a tough old race for you.
Yeah, it was very, very tough. I don't want to come with excuses and all, but that huge grid made some problems with my graphic cards because I had like 30 to 40 frames per second all the race. And also a lot of screen freezes, which explains some of the rather strange behavior of my car sometimes. But it was fun. It was a fun race, and I tried very, very hard. So I'm happy for the result.
I mean, you started the race in second position, and at the start of the race, did you think that you were going to get ineX freight train coming down into turn number 1?
Yeah, I saw they were getting good starts behind me, and I don't know. I started in second gear. Maybe I should have been in first. So first corner was a bit tricky, and also with the frame rate was horrible. So yeah, those first corners were tough, and all the first 10-15 laps were very, very tough.
And then you had that big fight with Dave Gelink for a long time. It looked as though you were just sizing him up. You made a couple of moves down to the inside, down into the hairpin, weren't able to do so before you finally made that huge charge to get yourself back into position. How important was it to do that at that point in the race?
Well, we were getting close to the pit stops, and of course I was hoping for him to go in earlier. Maybe he was shorter on fuel, but when we come close to pit stops, I noticed I just had to get by on the track. So, and he was braking. He was starting to brake earlier than I. Then he like lifted off the brake a little bit while I go harder, but later. So I knew I had a chance there, and I got by him. But then he took it back in the next corner. So that was all fun. So we went to the pits and. We went at the same time, and I think he overshot his pit stall a little bit. I had to back up, so that gave me the position.
Yeah, he overshot his pit stall, but I tell you what, you were very close to the rear of him coming in. You actually able to gain half a second on that run into pit road itself, so perhaps that pit entry might have been the difference maker for you as well. But in that second stint of the race, was it just a case of just managing the car, bringing it home? Did you think there was a chance you could try and close down Enzo at all?
No, Enzo was too far ahead, so that was never any chance of that. And I was still having those weird frame freezes every now and then, so I just have to just be careful with that and manage the distance to Dave. Obviously he gained a little bit at the end because I had a couple of more of those freezes and lost a second here and a second there, so. But that was under control.
Under control indeed. And let's talk about the future. Let's talk about 2 weeks' time, and for the second round of the championship we're heading over to Interlagos. It's a 45-minute race, so it's a sprint race compared to the marathon we've had today. But how do you think your chances are going to fare when we head over to the altitude of Brazil?
Yeah, well, this is a team competition, so we will see who we will have race for us in Brazil, maybe some other drivers. I will be testing, and Frederick will be testing, and all of our drivers. We have 5 or 6 race drivers in the team, and we will see who we pick for this race.
And how does that work as well? I mean, from a team perspective, is it not a case then that you just assign yourself, you know, races in advance? Is it just a case that you do it on a one-by-one basis?
Well, it depends a bit, because you will find out when you're practicing that some tracks suit some drivers better, and some drivers hate certain tracks, and some drivers love certain tracks. So you'll have to like see, and also with the format here with long races and sprint races. So obviously these longer races suit me because I'm used to driving the full distance with the F1 cars. We have other drivers in the team that cannot do the full race because it's just too much of on the back and the legs and all that. So it depends on a lot of factors.
Incredible insight. Well, we might see you in 2 weeks' time at Interlagos. If not, we'll see you at some point over the course of the FTC Race Department Blue Cup for 2013. Moving on, we'd like to welcome in the team manager for Team ineX Racing. Rob Sutherland's been complaining about the fact we haven't had a Finn in here all day long. So, Timo Uvanen, on behalf of your team, welcome to FTC Victory Road.
Thank you, thank you. I was trying to get my drivers to come here, but they're so busy celebrating, so I can't get any contact with them.
Keeping away from the fuzzy vodka girls. We've heard from 16th Street just how bad it can be. But take us through the race from your perspective as, you know, team owner, because you've had you guys, you know, running consistently in the top 3 all day. There's a chance at one point they could have been first and second. There's a chance at one point they could have been first and fourth. Take us through the emotions that went through from your end and talk about your team performance.
Well, we decided early on to try and go quite heavy, since we calculated that actual pit stop can take a while. And both of the guys qualified pretty good, so that was already a good start. And they managed to keep up really good. We kind of knew that Pablo was a bit lighter on fuel, and I mean it's always hard when you pit after half the race, because you're gonna end up in traffic on a long track like this. So they just kept the pace up and kept the car on the track, and unfortunately Pablo had some misfortune, so we don't actually know if our strategy worked or not, but we want to believe it did.
And I mean, it was a good race from Enzo, pretty much a lights to flag victory for him. Gelink had it a lot tougher. I mean, did you think there was a chance that he could have kept that second position had it not been for him overshooting his pit box on pit road?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
Of course, it's a light to flying victory from Enzo Bonito. So, I mean, of course, there was that issue with Pablo López, which really took away that battle for the race lead. But for Dave Gelink, do you think that he could have taken that second position had he have not made that mistake on pit road, overshooting his pit box?
Yeah, I mean, the thing was when Roland and Dave went into the pits at the same time, Roland had a lot shorter pit stop, and Dave's pit stop was about 4 or 5 seconds longer, and as we all know, it can be quite random in iRacing how long the stop is going to be. So I didn't see Dave overshooting his pit box. I might have missed that, but I saw that Roland had a really short pit stop, so I was wondering that maybe he was kind of short on fuel or something, but obviously not. So just random loss of time due to our guys in the pit being really slow.
And taking us forward to 2 weeks' time as well, we talked to Roland about, you know, how they sort the stuff for their team. Do you do it differently at all? Is it a case that you've got your team kind of assigned for a race-by-race basis, or is it more of a case that you'll see how it goes through testing and sort it out through that?
Well, we're trying to get like decided. Everyone gets to decide their own favorite track they want to race, and then we just see if that guy is available for that race, since some of our guys are still studying in university and all these kind of things that take time and stuff. So at the moment we're just picking the guys that are available and want to race. So.
And with their first and third place in the standings here today, what do you think your chances are for the championship? I mean, I know we've got 5 races left to go, but
yeah, I mean, obviously there's a lot of good guys racing in this, and we got off to a pretty good start. I think if we just keep this up and keep ourselves out of trouble, there might be a good chance to maybe take the overall win, and that's what we're going to aim for.
Well, congratulations as team manager. First of all, is there anything you'd like to say? And then secondly, just to my Marius, who's probably watching this, would like to speak in Finnish for a moment.
Well, first of all, of course, great job to Enzo and Dave for outstanding performance. I knew they would do really good, and we're looking forward to the rest of the races.
Nothing in Finnish?
Well, there's nothing really to say.
No worries. Go back and celebrate with you boys. Congratulations, race victory. Timo even in there, team manager for ineX Racing. Going to talk now to Oliver Brand. He came home in 9th place, but that's not really representative of the day that you've had, Oliver. At one point you are all the way into the 4th position, but it's kind of been an up and down day for you here today.
Yeah, I was hanging on for dear life in the end there. I didn't have the long distance tested that I should have on my setup, so it turned a bit nasty. So a bit of a surprise.
Let's take you from the start of the race. In typical Oliver Brand fashion, kept it kind of steady at the start. He started 14th, moved up himself into the 10th position, kind of in that kind of middle stage of the race. And then in typical Oliver Brand fashion, you managed to find your way past about 4 or 5 guys for the sequence of pit stops. First question, how the hell do you do it every single race?
I really don't know. I mean, I run the same sort of setups as all my teammates and all that, but I just use less fuel. Same sort of pace too, but don't know. I really don't know.
I mean, how much is it the case that you can almost save yourself, what, about a lap, 2 laps of fuel, or?
A lap or 2. Usually depends on the car. Really, it's not that much in the McLaren. It was more in the Corvette back in the olden days.
And then after you sequence of pit stops, I think you ended up in 5th. You came out ahead of Mads Buhr. So at one point you're actually in 4th, and then you had a huge battle with him, and then just take us through the motions of what happened when you went wide and you just lost those positions and fell back to the rear of the pack.
Well, I really thought I had it there after the hairpin, but he didn't seem to want to give up that position. Fought hard but fair for it, so kept on, and I decided, well, it's now or never, and I broke a little too late, just went wide. And then after that, I sort of could stick with him for the next 3 or 4 laps, but then the tire slowly started to overheat on the rear end, and I knew it was a case of just how long I would drop back before the end of the race.
And at the end, it wasn't any having to fuel save at all. Was it just the case that the tires had gone then?
No, I pretty much nailed the fuel.
Okay. And are you going to be representing Twister in the next race, or is it time to hand over your car to someone else?
It will probably be Mohamed S. Patel and Tommy Nilsson racing Interlagos in a few weeks' time.
So when we like to see you back in the car?
It will most likely be at Twin Ring Motegi.
And Twin Ring Motegi, of course, coming up a lot later in this season. Twin Ring Motegi is actually going to be, I believe, the 4th round of the championship. Of course, we've got Virginia, the Green Hell for round 3. We've also got Spa for round 5 and Huntington Miami Speedway for round 6. But before you go, Oliver, is there anyone you'd like to say thank you to?
Yeah, I'd like to say thank you to my entire team and David Dominguez for giving me the chance to drive here today. It's really nice of them.
And thank you very much for joining us. Unfortunately, that is pretty much all we have time for the first round of the STC Race Department Blue Cup for 2013, presented by rSeat.net. Next time it will be on air will be in 2 weeks' time at Interlagos. Don't forget also Glacier TV bringing you the rest of the 2013 iRacing.com World Championship Series. We've also got the Neo Endurance Series this Sunday, the Spider 250 from Circuit Park Zolder, and we're not too far away from the Polar GT Championship as well. So plenty more action to come your way in Glacier TV. For more information, go to glaciertv.com. From myself, Will Vincent, from Rob Sutherland, and from Iana Matakayan and Dan Blake. We'll see you all next time. Bye-bye.
Go get him, buddy. Go get him, man. You're passing with the